Good morning, microphone. Good morning, desktop. Good morning, OBS. Good morning, chat box. She's getting there. She's getting there. All right. We have arrived. I did notice the first comment goes to Craig, who is saying hi to Darren immediately. I love you guys. Aaron's here. Monkey of the Forest is here, saying, wouldn't it be fun if the stream started early? I got you. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, just a little bit early. Did you guys notice the microphone working? I'm like the prodigal son, but when it comes to technology, like I've trained you guys to just be proud if I get the very bare bones working. Uh, yes, we are a tiny bit early, gang. I'm happy I'm healthy again too. Thank you, Tim. If anybody else is either like just getting over something or going through it, man, I will say every time I get sick, I'm like, if it wasn't for this though, I don't think I would celebrate basic privileges like getting to breathe out of both nostrils typically, but now that I know, I'm like, that good, sweet, sweet air. Good morning, Peter. Thank you for the first super chat of the day. Thank you so much for the 5. We live in pretty good, Marcus. We live in pretty good. We're here a little early. Let me see this. How is everyone? Ray banned me. Thank you for the cheer. Thank you for the cheer. As a little heads up, just a little notice to everybody just coming on in. One thing about my streams is the cheers, Twitch cheers show up on screen, super chats show up on screen. But if you want me to like really, really, really for sure read your comment, super chat is like the only like guaranteed way right now that I will absolutely for sure read it. But at the same time, I read a ton of comments that are also not monetized. So do not feel any particular need to do that. But also, I'm going to plug real quick, Patreon and YouTube members. All memberships, monthly and annual, at the $5 tier and up, which is blue belt rank. So everything but white belt. Sorry, white belt. It is 25% off if you use code IRISH until the end of the month. That is my Patreon. I don't know why I mentioned YouTube members, but it's a lot of the same stuff that you get with that. So you'll get early access to videos, exclusive content, more voting power when it comes to what I do cover. And one of the big highlights, I would say, is we recently did a Dadvocate origin story stream. So if you've ever wanted like all the juicy tea onto the Dadvocate's personal history with family court, highly recommend that video. It definitely gets juicy. All right. But listen, as we approach our formal start time of the stream and we get out of early gang territory, I'm sure you're wondering why we've all gathered here today. And listen, I'm just going to come right out and say it. Your friends and I here in the chat, that guy there, we've decided that it's time to stage an intervention. And I think you already know what this is going to be about. Yeah, it's about watching the stream but not hitting the like button. And it's time someone said something because we've all noticed it. We've all had a pretty big problem with it. It's affecting our lives. You see, when you don't smash that like button as hard as you possibly can, okay, we just don't get out into the algorithm as much as we should. And then the homies, we get a little distraught in the club, okay? So listen, I know that you can overcome this. You're so strong. All you gotta do, just slap a like down on there. And we can all get through this, okay? Until the next time you don't do it. And then we're coming back, all right? We don't want to have to keep doing this, though, all right? we don't want to have to keep doing this, all right? We already had to do it to Terry like 17 times last year. So just, you're gotta change. All right, we gotta see some changes here. That said, basic housekeeping. Welcome to the Dadvocate stream. I'm your host, Lauren, and we try to keep it audio only friendly. That's a big thing around here. We will be reacting to some visual things, but for the most part, I will do my best to visually describe everything to you. That said, I will give you a quick itinerary of what to look forward to on this stream so that, one cool thing is it's going to run for a long time, but we'll always be here in your library. So it's like a revolving door. If you need to leave, come back, finish watching the thing like over the course of 2 or 3 days even, just go back to your library, open us back up again. It's fine. But these are the things that we're going to cover throughout this stream. So, sorry, I have the black lung. The first main theme of the stream is a question that I've never really considered, to be honest. A lot of times on here we talk about things that I am obnoxiously educated on, in fact, but this is a topic that I feel is probably pretty important to a lot of people, but one that I've never fully explored, and it's the question of, are there consequences to the marriage decline? And if so, what are they? So this is kind of a combination of a lot of different topics I've talked about, but in the totality of the question, one I've really never thought about until this stream is we've talked about how, people are getting married later, having children later, putting off the nuclear traditional family, if not avoiding it entirely. Polyamory is becoming more popular. MGTOW and avoiding women is becoming more popular, whereas women avoiding men is also becoming more popular. We have MGTOW, we have 4B, we have all of these things contributing to this gender war that's pulling us apart constantly at all times. And so, I personally, I don't study marriage trends. I'm not one of those people who feels that we have a desperate need to repopulate the earth and so we must go forth and prosper and everybody must get married. I've never really had that mentality. I'm a married mother myself, but that doesn't mean that I think that everybody in the world is equipped to be a husband or be a wife or be a parent at all. There's certainly people who need that extra buffer time. You know what I'm saying? They got some more updates to download before they can fully run the software as intended. Otherwise, it's just going to keep crashing out. You guys know what I'm saying here. So I don't think there's a major need to push it. At least I've thought so. And so someone sent me a video that is a pretty comprehensive video, but also not too long. So we should be able to reasonably cover it today. It's about 32 minutes. I'll go ahead and show you a little peekaroonie here. And this is posted by a character named Ashley Embers, has about 118,000 subscribers. This particular video is doing pretty well. It's a sponsored video at almost 300,000 views. There seems to be quite a discourse with about over 3,000 comments going on here. I've not watched it. So what we're going to be doing today is basically blind reacting to this and kind of seeing if there's something that maybe I'm missing. I might have my mind entirely changed today. I might learn a few things today. I definitely thought it was very interesting. Now, after this topic, we'll likely have some more time. So just to give you a taste of what is to come, last week, we covered a man who confronts his son's bully and ends up power slapping the crap out of this child, to which there was much mixed opinion. Well, after this video, I am happy to cover a new situation where yet another parent has learned nothing from the viral news and has also decided to confront their child's bully. And this one goes so much worse, but not for any children. So I think this one's going to be a lot less serious and a lot more entertaining to cover. And then beyond that, who knows what kind of riffraff we'll get into, but just a couple of things for you to expect and look forward to over the course of the stream. And with all that said, do we have our tea, our coffee, our Red Bull energy drink, our kombucha home brew, whatever it is you've got going on, your coffee enemas? Because it's time to get right into it. And I'm curious, just post in the chat real quick. Wait, where are you, chat? Why are you hidden? Sorry about that. I didn't mean to hide you from the world, chat. Get on back in here with us. Yeah, please go ahead and share your thoughts and opinions in the chat as we begin of, is the marriage decline something that any of you have been worried about? Do you believe that we do need to continue to populate? Is there an issue where we are not having enough babies? Are we not having enough marriage? And I just want to also study this thumbnail too. It reads, the untold cost of the marriage decline. One of these things says AI replacing relationships. I don't want kids anymore. And two-parent privilege. Let's get into it.
According to the Pew Research Center, 56% of millennials are not getting married.
Do you believe in marriage?
No.
50.1% of women, for the first time in history, there are more childless women at 30 than there are women with children.
In my
Yeah, we
20s,
knew
I would
that.
have said, absolutely must have kids. I want them. At 30, I started questioning if that was just something that society's told me that I've wanted.
The greatest privilege that exists is having two loving parents.
I'm sitting here on the eve of 30, and I'm wondering if I'm gonna be just as lonely on the eve of 40.
Because when we're young, we're told and we're taught that it is happily ever after. That is where your happiness resides, in finding your prince and having a home and kids. And now we realize it's a trap. It is a trap.
Wow, I have a lot of thoughts right off the jump. One of the first things that stood out to me was the woman who mentioned that, like, she wanted children throughout her entire 20s, but then by the time she got to 30, she was like, I don't know, I feel like that was just kind of like an idea that was sold to me. And it's like, this could be one of two things, right? Like, either, damn, it's a good thing you didn't have those kids then, because how bad would it be for you to come to that realization when you're 30? With a 3 or 4-year-old, you know what I mean? And you're just looking at them and you're like, that was a mistake. Like, I mean, thank goodness you didn't have kids. Or it could be cope. You know what I mean? It's kind of like how when I was growing up, a poor kid, I convinced myself that Disney World and Disneyland is like the corniest, stupidest, lamest stuff, and that anyone who spends all that money to go look at a glorified rat in a castle must be out of their mind, so stupid. There's so much smarter things that you could spend your money on. And then I finally got to a comfortable point in adulthood to where I could take my kids. And I had the time of my life. Oh my God, it was literally a dream. I get it now. I completely understand. I like made the full metamorphosis, came out of my chrysalis as a Disney adult. I cried when I met Tiana. It was a whole thing. So it could be one or the other. Like, there are a lot of people who are genuinely happy being child-free. A lot of people who are very happy that they get to buy like 5 motorbikes instead of a singular Disney ticket. Like, absolutely. But it could go either way. And my other big observation here was that so many people seem to think that we're taught that our only happiness can come from marriage and family. And I definitely, I wonder so much how much of that is actually really taught, or how much of that, like, we put on ourselves, and like the different balances and areas that people fall on that scale. Because I will say, in my personal life, even though I was raised religious, it was still no one taught me that I needed to get married. My mom was like, oh, you definitely don't have to get married. Like, you'll be 100% fine. Like, my parents came at both me and my sibling at like a very utilitarian almost mentality of like, you have to take care of yourself, no one will ever take care of you, was a big thing hammered in. But at the same time, like, I always kind of just felt like I would have more purpose if I did have a family. Like, and I feel like that has been my reality anyway. Like, I just function better when I have a whole tribe to take care of. But that's just me, okay? Marcus says, reeks of man-haters. I will say, I think probably everyone's bitter. I think everybody's bitter and jaded right now.
The sacred institution of marriage, once an integral part of human society, has been crumbling for decades now. Just 20% of 25-year-olds have ever been married today versus 85% back in the 60s. But it's hardly surprising when millennials grew up being...
Wow, that's crazy. It's only been like 50, 60 years, and that's a major difference. We went from like almost every single one of us being married by 25 to like 1 in 4 of us. Wow, that is actually a pretty significant decline. I didn't really know it was like that. I didn't know it was that crazy.
Told that 50% of marriages end in divorce, combined with the fact that in today's day and age, there's minimal social, religious, and financial incentive to get married anyways. And that's when we found ourselves with a whole generation rejecting the chokehold that marriage had on North American culture. While some say that this abandonment of marriage is for the best, as traditional marriage offers a false promise of belonging and security that is better found elsewhere in non-traditional arrangements, others are arguing that marriage is a vital part of a functioning society. But what does this dismantling of the traditional family mean for us moving forward, and who loses the most if marriage becomes obsolete? Well, that's what I'm here to discuss with you today.
Interesting.
One thing to look at when talking about the decline in a marriage is the impact that it has on community. While marriage may not be for everyone and it doesn't have the best track record, it does have a good history of bringing people together and encouraging you to be less self-focused. And there's actually data to show this to be the case. Married adults between the ages of 25 to 49 are far more likely to attend a community meeting, do local volunteer work, and visit a library. They talk to new people in their communities more often as well.
Wow, that is a really interesting statistic, and I 100% believe that too, because when I was single, I did volunteer, but like, I don't know, I definitely went to like parties and stuff like that, but yeah, something about becoming a mother and a wife does have me way more involved in stuff like that. That's really fascinating. Let me read this from Peter Edwards. Thank you so much for the super chat. I don't follow the trend, but I think by not having children, you're hurting my future. When I get to the old folks' home, will there be anyone left to work there? There will be. I just don't know how many of them will know what it's like to grow up in a 2-parent home anymore. Apparently, we're about to be getting into 2-parent privilege and all that. But this is really educational so far. That's fascinating.
Simply put, married people are more active participants in American civic life. Not only that, but marriage has been found to be good for the safety of communities. The positive effects of stable marriage and stable nuclear families spill over. Neighborhoods, towns, and cities are more likely to flourish when they are sustained by lots of married households. The work of the Harvard sociologist Robert Sampson tells us that neighborhoods with many 2-parent families are much safer. In his words, family structure is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, predictor of variations in urban violence across cities in the United States.
Wow, who would have thought that just by me and TJ remaining married, we are like single-handedly raising the entire value of our neighborhood, keeping crime down? I mean, that's probably pretty valid too, because I've talked a lot about the efforts I've put into adding safety precautions into my neighborhood. So like my neighbors know I've always got a camera going on the front of my house if anybody needs the footage, and it always makes me feel safer when my neighbors also have cameras of any kind, you know, so we can always be watching each other's kids. I think that's very valid too. Wow, this is like kind of turning me trad a little bit. Corey, thank you so much for the super chat. It says people that don't have children are going to be a financial drain on the country in 60 years. That could be also people who have children but alienate them themselves through their own poor behavior. Probably too. I'm also one of those parents though where I really hope that my kids don't feel like they have to financially take care of me. I would like to get that all settled before that becomes a concern to them, but that's just me.
I found this very interesting, but also a bit surprising. I wouldn't have thought that married couples were more involved in communities than non-married people. I would just think that single people are more likely to reach out for social purposes, while married couples might hunker down more. This journalist tries to give an explanation, saying that committing to the Institute of Marriage reflects either a greater willingness or ability to make sacrifices for and partner with others. As well, it was found that married couples have been consistently more trusting of others than unmarried people. And that makes sense to me when thinking,
wow, are we just gullible? Is that is that what it is? Are we just a bunch of sheep, us married folk? Like, we're just so gullible and trusting. We're like, oh, you want us to sign this paper that pledges our entire life and everything we ever work for to someone else? Okay. Like this could be seen as like all very positive things, or it could be like married couples are kind of just like blind leading the blind, just sheep showing up to the function, willing to do whatever is needed of us. Like pros and cons, man.
Thinking about the choice of getting married and taking on that group mindset and kind of needing to trust others a bit.
If you think about it, a lot of our society is becoming more individualistic. People do not have community with one another. People barely know their neighbors. People barely know anybody that is not within their close friend circle. We're becoming more separated from each other. We're losing the sense of community that we used to have. So of course, someone who is operating from an individualistic mindset is not going to consider your needs before their own. But if we had more of a community mindset, it would be more of, we have a person in our community that is clearly suffering or is clearly not in their best spirit. How can we do our best to make sure they get better?
Trying to speculate more on why this is, I wonder if married couples are more involved in communities because they're more reliant on them, and so there's more incentive to pour back into them. When we think of married couples versus singletons, I again think of a married couple being grounded in their community versus single people being more of that free bird kind of nature and not necessarily tied down to anything. Obviously a generalization. As well, married couples are more likely to have children, which means they're more reliant on community services like parks and libraries and healthcare and schooling, of course, and community centers with their versatility. So it would make sense that they would put more time and effort into supporting these services. But one thing is that these studies didn't specify the difference between married couples versus co-living couples, so it's hard to say from this data whether the outcomes are the same for both categories. I would assume that co-living couples have the same impacts on their communities because their values are the same, they're just living life without a contract. But
hold on, I want to read this comment from Hannah. Makes a really good point. I mean, I was definitely being very facetious when I was like, wow, it sounds like we're really gullible, but Hannah says, I didn't take it that way. I heard it like married people don't have baggage that gives them trust issues. That's true until they do. Until they do. But yeah, that's a really interesting other side of that coin that might play into all of this.
But the kicker is that we're not just seeing the rate of marriage go down, we're also seeing a rise in singleness. A new Pew Research Center analysis of census data finds that in 2019, roughly 4 in 10 adults ages 25 to 54 were unpartnered. That is, neither married nor living with a partner. This share is up sharply from 29% in 1990. Men are now more likely than women to be unpartnered, which wasn't the case 30 years ago. In this video, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds of why people are saying single. That seems like its own video, but briefly, some of the reasons include the feminist movement, of course, allowing women to be more self-sufficient and not needing marriage. With that, being married used to be an economic necessity for women, and that's not the case anymore. The decrease in religious affiliations mean that incentive isn't there anymore either. And then you could go down the whole rabbit hole of AI, how AI girlfriends are replacing actual girlfriends.
We're now finding out that over 10 million people think a relationship with another human is overrated.
But I don't really want to go there. But no matter the reason, the decrease in marriage is showing that it might have some...
That's a little too many people. 10 million people are 100% satisfied with replacing human connection with AI. Man, we really just do not like ourselves. Goodness gracious.
Some detrimental effects on community support when the typical single person doesn't have as much incentive to pour back into the people around them. Before moving on, this portion of today's video is sponsored by Rocket Money.
I'll skip this, but I also want to read So Luna's comment before I read Kyle's super chat real quick. She makes a really good point and something that I thought about when she was reading that statistic about how more men are unpartnered than women. You know, I was kind of thinking about that. I'm like, well, don't we have like kind of an equal population? It's not like there's been a massive spike in lesbianism or anything, but that leads the other alternative, which is what So Luna says. The funny thing is, women are more likely to be partnered, aka more women are sharing the same men, aka why less men are partnered, which has been kind of a long-standing theory, I believe, that people have had, is that a lot of women tend to just go for the same guys. I don't know if you guys watch Math, but he has an entire chart about it. You know, he uses the number system, which a lot of us hate. I'm not really a rating people through the number system type of person because I think that that's more subjective. for the most part. But Home Math has this really funny chart that shows how women 0 through 10 still tend to try to go for like the top 1 to 3 of the men, which leaves a lot of guys. I think he puts like, once you're at a low enough number, you're just a ghost. You're just invisible to all of society. Look, his graphs are they resonate, okay? And I will say there's been also studies that prove that women are more likely to mate poach. Mate poaching being the practice of going after someone else's man. And there is some psychological patterns within this. A lot of it is just the fact that when women see a man who has already been vetted by other women, they trust him more. They feel that he is well trained for the role more. Perhaps they view it as he's received more media training in how to husband, and so they would rather go for someone other woman's hard work and snatch him away than do her own job of helping shape a man into what she wants to see out of him. There's a lot that goes into it. Like, okay, he's already a husband, I'm just gonna grab that one. And some women truly think that they can succeed in this. It's a very dangerous game though, because even if you win a cheater. So not sure if that's a grand old victory there, but still happening, still constantly happening. Kyle Witt, thank you for the super chat, says, used to be super optimistic about marriage, ended up getting cheated on while she was in her 3rd trimester, cannot pair bond to other women anymore. You don't hear about that one often. I will say there is tragically too many men who cheat on women while pregnant for one reason or another, be it that like one case I've heard of, the man was afraid to poke the baby. Some men are just not attracted to pregnant bodies. Some women are resistant to engaging in intimacy while pregnant, and that draws men away. And some men are just greedy, selfish scumbags and would do it no matter the condition that she's in. Various reasons. But you don't often hear about a pregnant woman being the one to cheat. Although I did just hear a story about it, and it was so bad because she tried to use the excuse, at least you know I can't get pregnant. As if that would help the case. Like, she really tried to be like, well, this is the most ideal time to cheat because it removes at least one of the biggest risk factors. I was basically doing you a favor. Oh no. Oh man, but some people pay extra for those bumpy rides. So pregnant city girls, stay up. Peter Edwards, thank you for your $5 super chat, says, married people are more trusting due to their significant others backing them up, their voice of reason, if you will. I certainly hope so. There's also some comments in here about like never getting married again. Hells to the no. I will say I kind of get it now. Like whenever I would see someone who was like in their 30s or like early 40s or even like God forbid their 20s and they lose their spouse for whatever reason and they're like, oh well, I'm done. They were the love of my life. I'm done. I'm always like, what do you mean? Like you're still so beautiful. You're still so young. Why can't you date again? But like now that I've found my person, I really could not imagine going back to dating. Like, how do you go back to just like not peeing with the door open and like not being able to fart in front of them until you like gauge out the feelers there? Like, I don't know. That'd just be weird. And then I would just, when you find your person too, you're gonna just keep comparing everybody to them. So it just wouldn't be fair anyway. I get it now. I would never get married again either if God forbid anything happened. I'm with you. Marcus, thank you for another $5 super chat. Says, if women are so self-sufficient, why are they online farming for men to pay their bills and dinners, claiming them to be broke if they don't? Well, it's because sprinkle, sprinkle is what I've learned from that whole subgenre of the internet, is that is their value, is women have inherent value and they are inherently luxuries. I'm only telling you what I hear from the grapevine, though, Marcus. My personal opinion is, listen, if we all, as women, have this intrinsic value, what makes our intrinsic value more intrinsically valuable than the woman right next to us? And what should make a man choose us over another girl? Not to be like a pick-me, but at the end of the day, unless you are literally completely non-monogamous, I feel like every woman is to some degree, when in the mating selection process, a pick-me. You hope to be chosen over a separate person. And so that does mean that you do have to provide something unique for this man, even if it's just adaptability. You know, even you don't have to disparage this other woman, but if she's like, oh yeah, I work with animals really well and I love children and I'm really good with my hands, and you're showing up and you're just like, I'm pretty, well, she's also pretty. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. That's my personal opinion on the whole. Men should be the ones who bring everything to the table type argument on that. Okay, let me scroll down because I know I missed a couple. Cameron, so good to see you. Thank you for your $5 super chat. Says, that's why I always hated the phrase, plenty of fish in the sea. It doesn't matter if all the fish are after the same small handful of men. Yeah, it's also like, it's kind of like a capitalist thing. Like, if someone's out there in one of those, like, mega boats with, like, tons of expensive rope and elaborate, like, mass fishing technologies, and all you literally have is a canoe with a cork in it and, like, a rusty old, literally your starter old rod from Pokemon that can only catch up to level 5 fish, well, it's gonna be tough. It's going to be tough, and that's kind of like the system we're working out when it comes to class disparity and so many other issues going on. Thank you guys for letting me catch up on these super chats, by the way. We'll get right back into that video, too. Gus, good to see you again. Thank you for the 5. Says, pregnancy is intrinsically beautiful, but I think pregnant women are objectively attractive as well. The fact that some people don't baffles me. Like I said, yeah, some people pay extra for the pregnancy thing. Some people find it bonita. I definitely know my husband was not dissuaded or disengaged by my prego belly at all, okay? So, I don't know, the whole, like, being afraid to poke the baby thing, I don't like to make fun of men for their insecurities very often, but that one's a very silly insecurity. You better, if your lady wants to go to Bone Town, you better hop on that, man, okay? No, you ain't gonna be poking no baby, all right? Get that out of your mind, all right? EE, welcome to your first Dadvocate live. We're in the middle of skipping this Rocket Money ad and getting back into the business. Oh, I love that they put in the chapters where it is. Let's go.
Now, with there being a rise in singleness, people are needing to make up for the resources that are lost from not being connected to their community. And this is where technology comes in to make up for those lost connections. These technological advances allow more self-sufficiency, where now with the press of a button, you can buy your support. Think of food delivery services, online grocery orders, Amazon delivering, anything.
This is exactly what I was thinking of when she mentioned the fact that, like, people don't really feel the need to go out in their community and they're becoming more individuals and suffering from more individualism. This was exactly what I was thinking of.
And everything to your front door, self-driving cars, and robot cleaners, the list goes on. Point being, with enough money, you can buy your community.
I feel like with modern technology, so many of us are starved for genuine human connection, and we're really quite lonely. And that's why so many of us spend hours a day watching strangers on a screen talk to us in a seemingly very genuine way to create the illusion that we're, I don't know, laying in bed next to them. And it fills this need that we have for human connection, but really we're not connecting with anyone. Really, we're just one stranger talking into a screen while another stranger watches that person on their screen. Seems kind of f***ed up, doesn't it? Kind of dystopian? I don't know. Well, good night.
We also have to get back to the biggest player in the game, which is AI, which can basically become your personal assistant, creating...
Man, I will say there's definitely something to that. Also, I'm going to read Peter Edwards' super chat, which is, pregnant women are hot. Prove me wrong. I can't, because you're right. But, yeah, I will say... You know, a few of you know, I quit my job the October before last. So it's been, you know, a bit over a year now that I've just been a full-time content creator. And there's so many positives, you know, like the number one being I don't miss anything in my kid's life anymore because I am my own boss. I create my own schedule. I have so much more freedom and I get to be with my animals all the time more. I love it. But there's a lot of aspects that I miss because, you know, it's true. All of my interactions with you guys are like this. I'm talking to a camera and I'm like typing you guys over here and it is real to me. I know you guys might feel like there's a parasocial thing here, but like it goes both ways. I remember so many of you guys like, and I talk about you with my husband when you're not around, you know, but there are things that I miss when it comes to just the in-person interactions. Like I almost miss the conflict of customer service in a way, and that human experience of like waiting together and making small talk while you wait for a machine to actually finally work, or like helping talk someone down over an issue and finding out that their real issue is because, you know, someone in their personal life died, and, you know, having those kind of real human connection type moments that doesn't exactly quite happen the same over a keyboard, like to a point where I've been like, man, I wish I could get a job as like a barista for like a couple days a month just to like get that human experience. That's why I'm involved in like my kids' school and things like that, because you go so long just doing this without like going out and touching grass, and you definitely became you could become internet brained. Obviously, it definitely happens to the best of us.
Eating meal plans, giving restaurant recommendations, and creating budgets. But to clarify, this is of course not the case for everyone. Just because you're single doesn't mean you hate everyone and want to self-isolate. And it's not like every single person just cuts themselves off from their community because they don't want to invest in the playgrounds. These technologies just make it possible for the people who do want to do that to easily withdraw from others.
Nuclear family isolation.
And this brings me to the topic of the nuclear family's impact on the loneliness epidemic. I've talked about the loneliness epidemic in a previous video, but when
are we to blame? Are me and TJ causing the loneliness epidemic? But because I'm depriving the women of their ultimate giga chad? Oh no!
Looking into the decrease in marriage, I began to wonder if it also had impacts on our culture of loneliness. In that video, I talk about how capitalism kind of forces us into creating the nuclear family, and in doing so, isolating ourselves from the community around us. So that leads me to believe that by reducing the people in nuclear families, they would be more community focused.
Okay, people are allowed to change their mind, right? But didn't she just finish telling us that she learned that married people are more likely to be involved in their communities and civic duties? But then she also made a video apparently about how we're not more involved when we're married, that single people are. What?
And then the question is the degradation of the nuclear family really that bad if it's what's isolating us?
The past 100 years, the nuclear family model was created for political reasons, and it was heavily subsidized. It was not necessarily natural. We lived in villages, communities. We helped each other out. We didn't live in suburban sprawls where we can't even knock on our neighbor's door and ask for help.
But I think these are two separate issues, because the nuclear family is problematic in its...
I'm really confused about the parallels being drawn here, because I'm not going to argue that the nuclear family was not encouraged through government subsidized programs. I don't really think that can be argued. I'm curious by the idea that by having marriage exist, that it takes away from the community. Like that a married couple is less likely to lend out sugar than an unmarried couple that is like, I would imagine surviving more off of like a sole income type situation and probably have less access to disposable sugar to share. I'm also confused by the idea that like a suburban community is so radically different than like a tribal village. I don't know. This is one of those like nature versus nurture conversations. Is it true that the nuclear family would not exist outside of government control? Or have people always been kind of drawn to raising families together because we have so much to naturally offer each other. I don't really think that that's the case. Let me read this super chat that I missed. John, thank you so much for the 10. Very generous. Says, hi there. I'm a new viewer to your content. As a guy in tech that makes a comfortable living, unfortunately the risks of marriage are too great, particularly in a society that treats men as disposable. I mean, I can actually relate to you because tech is the career that I came out of to do this on my own. And it was remarkably comfortable for me, I will say. Not like amazingly, you know, I wasn't like super rich or anything, but I was finally able to like plan vacations for my family. And like this was the first time that I really got to have a headspace into like kind of the life of a man, because the way that it worked was when we got pregnant, you know, my husband and I know they hate when you say we, and it's like, you're the woman, you're the only one who grew up, but obviously it affected us both. You know, he came with a kid, so he already had all of this experience with child raising. Meanwhile, I was like just getting started, like just getting my feet on the ground, and I did not want to give up my career. So I was like, hey, how about you stay home with the baby and like I'll keep working, especially because my job was flexible enough to allow me to like take extended nursing periods so I could still continue to breastfeed my daughter throughout my career, things like that. And I realized, you know, like, wow, if anything happened, like if he ever really wanted to, he could dump my ass, take all my money, go for primary custody, put me on child support, put me on alimony. Like if TJ didn't love me, like he could ruin my life with ease, you know? And it was like, it is wild to think about, especially because I have seen some of my girlfriends already go through this. You know, a lot of you may know I'm friends with Chloe Roma. She pays her baby daddy $6,000 a month in child support. $6,000 a month, dude. That women too. That's what we have gotten with our feminism. I regret nothing. I'm glad that I can own a bank account and all that kind of stuff, but I will tell you, I think that family court reform is going to be coming a lot more swiftly now that women are starting to be just as impacted by it. Whew. Anyway,
its own way of isolating married couples. And the research I've been referencing says that while these couples are more involved in their communities, they are in fact less social. A perfect example of this is this study that says single parents, both divorced and never married, are more likely than married parents to socialize regularly with their neighbors. Childless, never married adults, perhaps unsurprisingly, are most likely to spend several social evenings with neighbors each month. But
this is what I mean, though, when I say that, like, there's really math for everything sometimes. That's why, like, going point for point on statistics can get so exhausting sometimes, because it's literally the same creator who is like, married couples are more involved in the civic community is now like, well, I lied. It's actually single couples that are more involved. And I'm like, okay. It sounds like we're all kind of involved now.
Makes sense when you don't have immediate family there to socialize with in your day-to-day. You're going to reach out to others to get that same support. This journalist states that,
oh yeah, I have to also stress too, yeah, Chloe has 50-50 with the child's father. Like, she made sure that they live like about a block away from each other. He's like right down the street. It's not a situation where like Chloe only sees her kids every other weekend. Like, I FaceTime Chloe all the time. She's always with her kids, you know? Like, so this is like 50-50, $6,000 a month. I gotta speak truth to power on that woman when I can. Arcion, thank you for the 5. Says, I don't want to assume too much, but whenever I hear someone say capitalism and the nuclear family are to blame, I start believing they're communist. I mean, there's definitely like space in between, because like I definitely have a lot of criticisms with capitalism, and I'm pretty anti-establishment, and I also don't like feel that we need a nuclear family. I'm not like super conservative in that way, but at the same time, like, my family is Ukrainian. I'm anti-communist as shit. Like, every time someone's like, we need communism to fix it, I'm like, let me show you my grandfather's autobiography if you want to really learn what communism is about. And you will quickly find out that that was not it. Not it. And the likelihood of anyone ever creating something like a true communism that works is, I want to say, like, almost zero. Like, good luck getting out of phase 2. But also, like, democratic socialism is probably the closest bet if you guys want to just talk more about that. But, like, yeah, don't talk to me about communism. It's not... Communism is like astrology for the men who believe in it. Can I just... You guys, like, might as well be praying to the Mercury retrograde gods to make communism work, dude.
The nuclear family has been crumbling in slow motion for decades. He sees extended families and what he calls forged families, single parents, single adults, and others coming together to support one another and children as filling the vacuum created by the breakdown of the nuclear family. I think what we can pull from this is the trend of singleness and self-isolation can have a negative impact on society, but the decline of the family unit isn't necessarily that bad. To try and summarize this section, because I feel like it's a little bit nuanced, married couples are more invested in building up the community they live in and provide support, while unpartnered people are more likely to be socially involved in their communities.
Oh, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, us parents, we're the ones who show up with the goldfish crackers for the teachers, but then we gotta bounce because we have rehearsal followed by gymnastics followed by swimming. Goodbye. But then the single people are like, but we can stay and yap. Let's gab. No, that makes perfect sense, actually. So now we're getting into two-parent privilege, which I'm sure I will completely agree with, quite frankly. I don't even look, my personal opinion is that not even 2 parents is enough. I'm not saying like those polycules or whatever, but I am saying, like, we need grandparents, we need involved aunties and uncles, we need trustworthy friends who show up for us. Like, we need the village. Like, not even 2 parents is enough. We need so many players for a single solitary kid.
One of the biggest impacts the decrease of marriage has is on the children. While the standard American life used to have the family structure of a man and a woman who are married and they have 2.5 kids, there are now different ways to form a family, one of them being single-parent households. The 2021 census tells us that 60% of kids are growing up in families with married parents, but that's down from 73% in the late 1990s. While many people will continue to have kids whether or not they're married, we're seeing that marital status does have an impact on children's success in life. I learned about this topic from...
Oh no, not the parents fighting while the kids on the iPad. Where did she get that B-roll?
That's down from 73% in the late 1990s. While many people will continue to
that
have
is
kids,
seriously the
married,
clip of our generation, dude. This is so us right now. This is 100% the nuclear millennial family. Is the kid with the tight ass fade having to play on YouTube Kids while his parents scream at each other? Oh no, the accuracy. This wasn't even B-roll. This was like a sibling playing with their new DSLR, which dad also bought to distract from the fact that he doesn't get to come around as much anymore. Oh no.
Impact on children's success in life. I learned about this topic from the book The Two-Parent Privilege by Melissa Kearney, How Americans Stopped Getting Married and Started Falling Behind. And in this book, she states that the decline in marriage and the corresponding rise in the share of children being raised in one-parent homes has contributed to the economic insecurity of American families, has widened the gap in opportunities and outcomes for children from different backgrounds, and today poses economic and social challenges that we cannot afford to ignore, but may not be able to reverse. I'll put this right here. Now that is a big statement, so let's try and break it down. There are some obvious perks to being raised in a 2-parent household, one of them being financial stability, whether that's a home where both parents work or one income is enough to sustain the family so the other parent stays home. But the privilege of 2 parents goes deeper than household incomes. 2 parents with healthy relationships with their children are able to offer more emotional bandwidth, more time to invest in the children, and a larger network of people to pull from. It makes sense that pooling resources from 2 parents means more opportunities than one has alone. A second parent means another adult to read to the children, to take them to extracurricular activities, and to help them with their homework. Arguably more important, it's another shoulder to cry on, it's another listening ear, and another voice of wisdom in trying times.
Having 2 parents is a form.
And let's just let's just say what we need to say too. Someone else to call you out on your bullshit. Okay, there have been times that I have not parented appropriately and TJ's had to pull me aside and we've had to talk about it, and you know, vice versa, right? Like there are times that we need to actually like share wisdom with each other and kind of keep each other in line. That's also one of the dangers of a single parent household is when you're raising your kids entirely by yourself without any community and no one else to kind of see what you're doing, it's really easy to convince yourself that you're doing absolutely everything right. Because at the end of the day, your kids are probably not going to call you out on your bullshit. Like, as much as I do raise my children to feel confident calling me out on my bullshit, and, you know, they are doing great at it, let me tell you. Okay, it's not quite the same as another adult, especially another adult with experience raising children. Like, let's not forget that key detail either, is it's really important to have someone there kind of making sure you're both on the right page.
Form of generational wealth. And I think about this often, especially with the family dynamic and extended family, where a lot of the people in my life, I would argue from...
I feel like this creator has annoyed me before. Her face seems familiar. I feel like I think I've covered her and been annoyed by her. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I might agree with her this time, but she looks like someone who has annoyed me in the past, and I could be wrong. She might just have resting annoying face.
I think about this often, especially with the family dynamic and extended family, where a lot of the people in my life, I would argue from my family dynamic, did not have a strong sense of self. They did not have hobbies. They did not have individualized experiences, especially if you come from a divorced household or you have a parent die when you're young.
Actually, let me read something really quick. Okay, well, we'll keep reading this, but I also want to read Jay Emmett's comment. Jay Emmett says, "Can we stop calling it privilege, though?" Referring to two-parent privilege. "It's a decision that parents make, even if it's subconsciously. It helps. I just feel like that makes it creepy to call it that." I don't know if creepy is the right word, but I actually do kind of hear what you're saying, and I'm inclined to agree with you, because at the end of the day, it's not like it's a privilege. Like, it's not like, oh, I was born into this healthy marriage that was cultivated and grown just for me, and I've never had to work for anything. It just happened for me. Because that's not true. The reason that, you know, my child has two parents is because two parents have both worked really hard to be there and to also treat each other well and with love and with commitment and faith within each other. You know, I think that you're right. By calling it two-parent privilege, I think that it can be insulting to those of us who work hard for it, but at the same time, I understand why it's called that, because there are a lot of people who did everything right to have what their kid is supposed to have, and the other parent still walked out on them, still cheated on them, still had addictions that they could not let their kid be raised around. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I think the privilege piece comes in, is it's not really meant to take away from those of us who work hard to have our marital unions and to make sure that our kid has two children in their lives at all times. For some people, it's like they really did everything right, and unfortunately, it just did not play out to where they were able to fully give that to their kid. I think that's more of what it is referring to.
You are down a person. They have less resources to offer you, and therefore you are competing in the world at large with people who have had two parents, whose parents stayed together, whose parents had hobbies, whose parents had interests, whose parents had networks. Having a system set in place where you're able to access the grander part of the world.
It's no secret that raising children is both physically and emotionally exhausting, even for two parents. And when that full responsibility is on only one parent, often something has to give. And that could look like not having enough emotional energy for your child, and not being able to do those extracurricular activities, or just not having the financial ability to give your child the opportunities to get ahead in the world. When a child is raised in a single parent home, the parent is often run dry from trying to balance the full load of caring for the child's physical needs, caring for the home, and on top of that, working full time.
Yeah.
The worst feeling as a single mom is doing everything in your capacity to raise your children by yourself, and either still being told that it's not enough, or you just feel like it's not enough.
And I just want to say too, I feel like this is there's a lot more sympathy in the world when a woman comes on the internet and is like, it's so hard to do things with a single mom, but like, I just want to take a moment for like all the single dads who are like, I can't even get away with doing something like that, because like, if I post anything, they'll just be like, oh yeah, it's so hard for you. What do you have the kids like 4 days a month? The mom's got it way harder than you, you know, like I talk to so many dads who have to deal with this. And then one other note before I let her finish is I also wish we would stop having the argument of like, what defines a single parent? To me, when someone calls themselves a single mom or a single dad, they simply mean that they are not with the other parent anymore. I don't think it's meant to be a direct insult that the other parent is completely absent. I think it's like, I'm a single person and I'm a mom. I'm a single person and I'm a dad. So like, dads have got to stop getting pissed when their ex calls themselves a single mom. She is. And women need to stop getting pissed about their ex being like, oh, he's trying to gain sympathy by calling himself a single dad. He is. Like, he is. So like, let me just put an end to that debate real quick, and I'm gonna let her finish. Okay.
I feel like people look at me and see me raising my kids and just automatically expect me to be like 3 people. Like, my children literally do not have a father. They have a biological father. Yes, he's alive, but he is not present at all whatsoever. He does not help at all. He doesn't help with the decision making. He doesn't share the time. He doesn't share the pickups. He doesn't go to the doctor's appointments. He does nothing. I do it all by myself. I make so many sacrifices every day. I have to give up going and chaperoning my kids' field trips because I have to be at work to pay the bills. I don't get to stay home with my kids on digital learning days and help my kids educate themselves. When I'm not feeling good, I don't get to take the day off. I don't know, I guess sometimes I get tired of people looking at me like I'm this superwoman and like I got this and I'm expected to have it, and like, I don't want to be superwoman. I'm tired. Just hoping that one day like I catch a break.
2-parent households also benefit from having that extra little bit of time where the parents can invest back into themselves and then pass down those improvements onto their children. Think of parents who have more time to be physically active. Those habits have been found to be passed on to their children. With that extra time, they're also able to continually build that network of community, which
I will say another thing that happens so much because of this is something I've observed a lot being a woman in the world. And I can guarantee you guys, this is probably happening with a lot of your exes, is I've been part of groups of women where like they start with their merciless making fun of either their partner or their baby daddies. This is just, for some reason, happens at every single female-centric function. Not every single one, but it happens a lot. And one woman will be complaining about her husband, one woman will be complaining about her baby daddy, da-da-da-da-da. And then you have the one single mom there who's like, I don't have any help. So while you're going to sit here complaining about you don't like the way he does things, he doesn't monitor screen time the same way as you, and you're going to be bitching about how, you know, you think that he gives him too much sugar, I would punch my sibling in their face to have some help. And it's like, I think a lot of people don't really even get humbled until they think about that either. And it doesn't mean that you should tolerate absolutely terrible behavior from any partner or father or mother that you share a child with or anything like that. But something to keep in mind is that no matter what, if you have someone helping you with the child, that's more than single parents have. It's really hard. People really convince themselves like it really would be so much easier if I was just a single parent, but like, would it be sometimes if that person's really that bad? But not always.
Expands the resources they can offer their kids.
If you're a single mom and you have your child 100% by yourself, I mean financially, physically, everything by yourself, the most important thing that you can do is work on yourself. You are not going to be able to find time to do it. You are going to have to make the time. Making the time for yourself to be better, to be the best version of yourself, is going to positively impact your child because you're all they have.
And this isn't all to say that there should be a punishment for having the privilege of 2 parents. It's just a fact that there are advantages over others who didn't have 2 parents in their household.
2 parents and poverty.
On the note of money, though, marriage does...
Have they been reading our diaries?
play a big part in the financial well-being of children and is one of the best prevention methods against poverty for the family.
Basically, states with more married parents see markedly higher growth rates than other states that don't have as many married parents, have much lower rates of child poverty, and also have higher rates of what we call economic mobility. That's sort of rags to riches mobility over the life course for kids growing up in the states. So these are kind of just some examples of the way in which how when families are flourishing, both kids and adults are more likely to be flourishing as well.
Marriage remains America's strongest anti-poverty, anti-crime, pro-health institution. It's an undeniable fact that the best chances for financial success, emotional well-being, and good health for both parents and children happen when parents are married and families are intact. Marriage reduces the probability of child poverty by 80%.
Whoa, that's crazy. Who sent me this video essay, and why are you trying to turn me into a Tradwife? Because, like, I'm not even gonna lie, before I watched this, I was starting to become a bit anti-marriage. Really, and like that, and this is coming from someone who obviously has been with her husband for, a good decade now, and we're successfully raising a young boy and a young girl under our home, like very, very nuclear. But like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't really think everybody's ready for it. I think that it's an extremely big commitment that most people don't fully consider. Like things that I often tell people is I'm like, if you can't imagine being there for your spouse if they become irreparably deformed, completely disabled and immobile in some way, where you have to literally like wipe their butt for months and months to years on end, if you can't deal with them losing their job, dealing with financial hardship, like having to carry the load, like if you really can't think about those things, you have no business getting married. Like I talk about these things all the time, and I feel like a lot of people aren't ready for marriage, a lot of people aren't ready for kids, but man, do you think that it would just be better for them to just jump right out of the frying pan and into the fire and just go for it anyway and kind of learn by doing, just for the sake of having a tried and true statistically the best advantages for themselves in the long term and their children? Man, this is a lot to think about, actually.
This article goes into the importance of improving marriage rates in the battle of poverty, saying women and children in single-parent households are at particular risk for living in poverty, and indeed family earnings for half of the nation's children have been falling over time. Rather than focusing on changing values, a more effective approach to addressing both poverty and marriage may be to improve economic opportunities for all Americans,
or by reforming family court. Like, think about this. How is the system not encouraging poverty when you literally incentivize the primary caretaker to not work at all, to pause their career because you don't offer any negative repercussions for them refusing to get a job? You incentivize them not to work because then they'll get the maximum amount of child support. So you have one parent not contributing to their career whatsoever, not earning any of their own money, dependent on their ex and government programs. And then you have another parent who now, like, the majority of their income is going to paying their ex. Meanwhile, they still have to perform and provide all of the parental responsibilities within their home. They have all of their own bills to pay. So then what do they end up doing? Well, they end up having to get a second job so they can just afford life in general. But what do you do when they get that second job? You increase their child support. So now they're spending all of their time working to pay their ex who refuses to get a job. They don't get to spend that time with their children. So now you just have these kids being raised by two broke parents who they're barely even getting to see their father. They're losing out on that entire relationship, and they're not inspired by their mother, who is living to basically serve them without living for herself. I see these other single mothers saying things like, we have to prioritize yourself. You have to prioritize yourself. Like, easy to say, but are your kids actually seeing that? And I'm not saying that's every single, split parent household by any means, but that is the situation that a lot of these family courts incentivize, just the way that it plays out.
particularly for low-skilled, less educated workers. I feel like in a lot of ways this news isn't surprising, but definitely important to note, because of course there's less income overall if you're comparing two working parents to one, but there's also a higher likelihood of getting stuck in a job that isn't serving your family anymore when you're the only one bringing in an income. When there isn't that backup of a second income, you have less flexibility to switch careers, which in the end could increase your salary. And we see this in the data of rates of class mobility within single mother families. The fraction of children with single parents in a given community is the strongest and most robust predictor of economic mobility, or its absence. Children raised in communities with high percentages of single mothers are less likely to move up. In other words, it takes a village, but of married people, to raise the odds that a poor child will have a shot at the American dream.
Married parents versus co-parenting. Oh
This isn't just
boy.
applicable to families where one partner up and left. Even when both parents are still involved in their children's lives, they still don't have as much to offer the kids. In a marriage, both parties take on the responsibility of running the household and taking care of the kids. And doing it together is of course more efficient than doing it separately. When couples separate, they have to take care of two homes, which is more work than taking care of one. And that of course takes up more of the time that they could be pouring into resources to build up their children. And the unfortunate thing is that unpartnered mothers are typically not making up for the loss of that second parent in the household. 67% of children living in an unpartnered mother household have no adult living with them besides their mother. But this is of course at no fault to the mother. Even myself in a married household, I would love to have another adult around to help clean up the place a little bit, but it's not as easy as just magically making it happen. But the good news is that despite this, mothers are still able to compensate for the lost person in the house if they build a network of resources to help with the parental load. For example, having grandparents or even just other members of the community step in can help provide the missing emotional and financial benefits for the children. In this article, the writer compared the relationship between the health of the American dream and the presence of two-parent families in the community. Working with a team of scholars, they found that Black boys are more likely to achieve upward economic mobility if there are more Black fathers in the neighborhood, and more married couples as well. As we know though, this downward trend in marriage is not just from divorces or people not finding the one, but of the cultural trend of co-living with your partner.
I don't know if you guys caught that, but all of these articles are saying that children thrive when they have access to men in their lives. That's what they've all been saying. I mean, obviously women as well, but what I've been hearing is, what's that? We need men. Got it. Just had to make sure that that's what you guys were saying.
And it's understandable. In an age where you don't have any external incentive to get married, why go through the trouble?
Why do you think less people are getting married?
Well, so we're not married. We've been together 25 years, we're not married.
That's quite interesting. So how come you guys didn't decide to get married?
Never seemed very necessary. I think we haven't had children. If we'd had children, I think probably then we would have done, but we didn't. And we were just perfectly happy as we were, so why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
But unfortunately, as studies...
You notice we didn't get to hear from her on that one. I don't know, I kind of want to hear her opinion on that. Is it that both of you agreed that you didn't want to get married, or you've just kind of told her, we don't need to do that, and she's like, I would have liked it.
Are finding co-living relationships don't last as long as married relationships. In the two-parent privilege, they say cohabitation in theory could deliver similar resources as marriage, but the data show that in the US, these partnerships are not on average as stable as marriages. And this study reinforces it, saying a new survey of 11 developed countries shows that large shares of cohabiting couples with children under the age of 18 doubt that their current relationship will last, especially in comparison to married parents. Moreover, cohabiting parents in most countries are less likely than married parents to see their relationship as a vital part of their life. That is of course not to say that all co-living partnerships are...
That's really interesting data, because I'm sure that you guys, like a lot of, like I've seen as well, I've seen so many people make the argument of like, marriage isn't for everybody, and a couple that is living together and raising a child together that's not married is just as good as a married family. But we now know that the numbers do kind of suggest otherwise. And, I think a lot of it is, in this case, there's more risks to leaving as well. I think that it's just as much the fear factor as the reasons that you get married to begin with, right? Like, when I first decided to marry my husband, it was what felt right. And I was never a person that even thought I ever would get married. It wasn't foundationally important to me. But when I realized, like, this is my person, I was just kind of like, this is what we're gonna do. You know, I do know that I'm going to be with this person, that I'm going to commit to this person, and that this is what I want. And I will admit too, like, the foundation of marriage, it definitely keeps me going. Like, I love racking up the years, you know what I mean? I love the fact that we have these vows that we can reference. There is a lot that plays into it. And also, yeah, you know, I definitely don't want to have to go through a divorce. It is definitely not the same as simply breaking up with somebody by a long shot. So there's a lot of factors, yeah, that definitely keep my relationship with TJ pretty locked in, you know, both emotionally and foundationally through the law.
Are doomed to fail, but overall it's less guaranteed depending on the situation. I think one of the reasons for this is that when you decide to co-live but commit to the long-term relationship, you haven't left the category of just co-living despite having the same commitment as married couples. So there's not a label transition to separate you from the other people co-living and still trying out the relationship. For some, the co-living stage of a relationship is just that, a stage, and the hope may be that it will go on to marriage, but that doesn't always happen. And we see this again in the data that among currently married US adults ages 18 to 50, about 64% have lived with their spouse before getting married. So it's hard to know what percentage of co-living couples have made it to that point of full commitment versus the ones who are still just dating. But there is, of course, that group of people who choose not to get married, not to stick it to the man, but because maybe they don't feel as confident in their relationship. And that could result in the co-living parents being a less stable environment for children. Overall, I think it's unfair to come to the conclusion that co-living married couples have a less stable home for children than married couples, because we don't have all the data to really show that.
I mean, that's fair. That was literally just one statistic that showed that, you know. That's a tough one, because I've personally, before this, I've never felt any need to judge people whether or not they're married. If you're simply living together but raising your kids together, it's, you know what I mean? I'm like, you know, Uncle Sam doesn't necessarily need to be a part of your relationship. And there's also a lot to be said, but for the fact that, you know, while you can argue, well, if you're not married, you're not fully committed to each other. Well, there's a lot of married people who aren't fully committed to each other and treat marriage like it's just something that you can break off at any given moment too. So that is, I would agree with her. Probably not enough data to fully gauge it, but it does seem that she's, whether intentionally or not, making a lot of points for the fact that marriage does seem to strongly improve society when actively practiced and encouraged. And that's, I'm usually not one to like say like such classically conservative talking points, but that's just what this data seems to be pointing to.
One thing to note, though, is that the rise in children coming from co-living but unmarried couples does not match up with the amount of children coming from unmarried parents overall. In fact, most unmarried parents today are not in relationships that are essentially marriage in all but the name. Among children living with unmarried adults, nearly 9 out of 10 live with 2 biological parents. Among children living with unmarried cohabiting adults, the share living with 2 biological parents is between 1/2 and 3/4. In other words, the share of children living with 2 biological but unmarried parents is smaller than we might have thought. And so from that, we're seeing that the problem we're dealing with is not from couples who choose to have children outside the contract of marriage, but from the rise of children living with one parent. Overall, 21% of American children live in a home with a mother who is neither married nor cohabiting. In comparison, only 8% of children live with either unmarried parents or a parent and an unmarried partner. A couple things I want to note before we move on. One of them being, of course, there are exceptions to this situation. Families with unhealthy relationships are included from these findings of 2-parent households being better, as any house with an abusive parent will always be better off without that person in the house. I also want to clarify that this segment isn't to shame single mothers or make them feel less than. They're obviously working very hard to do the best they can for their kids. It's just a matter of fact that there's only so much you can do when you're raising your kids on your own. I am well versed in the world of single mothers, and I know for a fact that it's not a death sentence. But it's just important to note that there is a difference and a privilege involved with having 2 parents in the household. Children can definitely still succeed coming out of those single parent households. They just have to work harder to get those resources that were already available to their peers that had 2 parents.
Declining birth rate.
And now we move on to the problem of fertility rates plummeting in pretty much every developed country. The general fertility rate in the United States decreased by 3% from 2022, reaching a historic low. This marks the 2nd consecutive year of decline, following a brief 1% increase from 2020 to 2021. From 2014 to 2020, the rate consistently decreased by 2% annually.
This doesn't feel like a big deal. This feels like probably a normal shift, like a normal ebb and flow. She's gonna have to. There's gonna have to be some like hard hitting evidence to convince me that like people need to be going out and having more babies on purpose necessarily. Not there's anything wrong with it. Like there's nothing wrong with having babies at all. I don't know if we need to like be worried about it.
The cycle of birth rates usually follows the pattern of falling during economic downturns and then rebounding during economic recoveries, but that changed when we hit the 2008 recession. As expected, during this recession, birth rates dropped as people weren't feeling financially stable, but it didn't recover like after previous recessions. Instead, birth rates have continued to drop ever since. There are many factors contributing to this drop in birth rates, some being the cost of raising children going up and the increase of women focusing on careers, and the aspect we're narrowing in on, of course, is the impact from fewer marriages. Now, if this decrease in marriage was just coming from couples choosing to co-live instead of getting married, we would expect that there wouldn't be a change in birth rates. But what we're finding
Here
for the
oh no, sorry, I did not mean to skip right past that.
Contributing to this.
There we go. Yeah, let me read EE's comment because I have to agree. It says, I think if housing was more affordable, the birth rate would be higher. Yeah, absolutely. Like there's definitely a lot to be said for that. We are definitely in quite a housing crisis at the moment. Like we're all trapped in a renter's prison. How are we ever gonna have kids reasonably? Like I feel like I'm pretty comfortable and I'm still like, I would want to be more financially comfortable before I bring in a third kid, you know, even like, and I would say I'm on the more comfortable end, and I'm still like, I don't know.
This drop in birth rates, some being the cost of raising children going up and the increase of women focusing on careers, and the aspect we're narrowing in on, of course, is the impact from fewer marriages. Now, if this decrease in marriage was just coming from couples choosing to co-live instead of getting married, we would expect that there wouldn't be a change in birth rates. But what we're finding is that there still is a correlation between decreased marriage and lower fertility. We see in this study that women who don't marry are less likely to meet their fertility goals. The reality is most women in this birth cohort, 1980 to 1985, are well behind where they need to be to hit their fertility goals by the end of their reproductive years. For over 40% of women in this survey, they would need to reliably have more than double the recent observed age-specific birth rates to meet their fertility expectations.
Am I weird for not having fertility goals? Is it normal for women to like have fertility goals? I guess it's always been like kind of, I would say probably like a lot of women at least have like a loosey-goosey idea of like, well, I would ideally like to have a couple kids by 35 or something like that. You know what I mean? But like, what is this suggesting that even when women are trying their hardest, they're still not having as many babies as when they have the ring on their finger? I'm curious about what that means.
That's not likely to happen. One reason for this could be that women want that security of marriage before moving forward to have children. So if the ring isn't there, they'll put it off. It's also common for women to not see themselves as mothers until they meet a spouse that they actually want to have kids with.
Can I ask a question about kids?
Yeah.
What's your feelings on them?
In my 20s, I would have said absolutely must have kids. I want them. At 30, I started questioning if that was just something that society's told me that I've wanted. There's not a lot of men I meet that I think they'd be great fathers. And so I kind of don't have that instinct to like procreate with them because I'm like, oh, I don't know if this would be an equal parenting relationship.
But the biggest factor is the trend of delaying marriage. This impacts the amount of children women are having, as when they get married later, their window of fertility gets narrower. The graph above shows that women who spent fewer of their reproductive years married tended to have a bigger shortfall in births versus expectation.
This is why you guys really got to not mate poach, but like single father poach. You know what I mean? Because, like, I will say this. I think a lot of people are really afraid to date a single parent for numerous reasons. But it was kind of a life hack dating TJ because I got to see exactly what he would be like as a father. Like, I got to look through that window already. So I already knew, you know? Maybe these women, they should start dipping in my pools. I got to start up the Dadvocate dating app. Like, ladies, curious what he'll look like as a father? Come do some window shopping.
We also know that it's become more and more common for women in their 30s to start having children, which is great. We love seeing women getting their footing in the world and accomplishing all their dreams before settling into parenthood. But what I still found surprising was that in 2019, nearly half of all births in the US were to women 30 or older. Still, we know that the increase in births from women in their 30s doesn't make up for the loss, as Melissa says in her book again. I feel like I should take this down now because the whole video isn't about it. But she says that the additional number of births from women in their 30s is still smaller than the reduced number of births to women below the age of 30, making the overall birth rate lower than in previous decades.
Talk about having kids in your 30s or later. So like many millennial, I have been spending the last decade building my career, waiting for the perfect time. She didn't know if I wanted kids until about 4 years ago, but I still wanted to wait until I was 100% ready, not just financially, but like emotionally, mentally, everything. Now I'm 3 months from being 36 and I worried, did I freaking wait too long?
Man, okay, this is another area where like I said, my mind was probably going to change in this video because I started this video thinking, you know, like, I don't know if people should get married. They're probably not ready. I don't know if people should have kids. They're probably not ready. But like, I look back and I think, like, what if I didn't get pregnant when I did? Because, you know, I'll be the first to admit this, you guys. I'm not ashamed of it. My kids have already done the math. My 7-year-old's already done the math. Even though my wedding had been planned for a year, I got pregnant about 3 months before the wedding. Okay? Yeah, we were not exactly acting godly. Okay? I will completely admit that. At least it's not the reason we were getting married. But, you know, when we were talking about marriage, I knew that I was opening up to the idea of maybe having our own biological kids one day. But I was also in the headspace of like, we're not ready though. We need to be more in our careers. We need a lot more money. And when it happened, and I was looking at those 2 little lines on the stick, you know, I talked to my husband, and I remember him putting both his hands on my knees because I had said, like, we don't have enough money. We don't have enough money. And he was like, if all you're worried about is the money, we're gonna be fine to have this baby, because when you have a baby, the money comes. Like, you figure it out. And he ended up being right. I know that might not be great advice for everybody. You know, I'm not saying like, don't use protection or don't try. Look, my child broke through birth control. Okay, to give you an idea, like, we did try, but birth control does fail. When he told me like that the mother of his child before me, her birth control failed, I was like, nah, she's lying about it. Like, she definitely was not on birth control. But then it happened to me, and I was like, never mind, she wasn't lying. It happens. It definitely happens. But, you know, I think that I would probably be in the same boat. I would probably be 36 years old being like, oh, wait, like, I'm still not ready. I'm still not ready. So I'm kind of glad that my daughter decided to just like Sparta kick her way through birth control and force her existence into my life, because I don't know if I ever would have really been ready otherwise. So I think that the whole out of the frying pan into the fire thing is sometimes just the way in a lot of situations.
It doesn't help hearing that 1 in 8 couples have a hard time having kids, and every doctor is like, you better get started.
Dylan said, need to get my wife pregnant so I can stop being a broke bitch. Look, got my ass in high gear, I'll tell you that. So my God says, if you wait till you're ready, you'll wait forever. Yeah, thank you for that. I do think that yeah, TJ dropping extra strength swimmers. He constantly quotes that one Ron Burgundy. Is that his name? Ron, what's his name, from Parks and Recreation? When he's like, I don't even remember it. TJ quotes it all the time, but he's like, standard birth control does not work on our genetics, or whatever it is. We'll edit it in. I'll get the right quote in here. One of you guys will fix me. One of you Parks and Wreckers.
I finally feel ready, but I also worry that I wait too long.
If we once again narrow in on the group of co-living parents and their trend in child rearing,
Swanson,
like we said, it's on its
you.
way up. This is of course because of the increased normalization of non-married couples having children together. But this doesn't mean that we're having a baby boom of children coming from co-living parents. It's just that with this normalization of couples denying traditional marriage values, the people who in previous generations would have gotten married to have kids are now just not getting married but still having the kids. And so it again does not make up for the drop off of births from married couples. Once again, because we're seeing that rise in unpartnered mothers. And so as it turns out, not being married is closely associated with women not achieving their fertility expectations or desires. Cohabitation is not an equivalent substitute for marriage where fertility is concerned. Taking all of this into account, knowing that just 14% of single people are looking for a serious relationship, the increase in having children later in life is decreasing the amount of children people are having, and co-living parents not making up for those losses in birth.
I don't know if that's true. She said only 14% of single people are looking for serious relationships. Do you think that's true? I want to see some other data on that. What percentage of single people are looking for marriage? I'll say that. That's gotta be more. See, according to Pew Research, around 40% of single Americans are actively looking for a committed romantic relationship. Let's see some other ones. Let's see. There's just a lot of stats that I'm finding, but I don't know. This one says 57% of single adults in the US are not looking to date at all. So that's interesting. Man, these numbers are kind of unique. I'm curious what the truth is here.
Earths means that overall, less marriage results in less children.
Final thoughts.
Okay, final thoughts. For one, I don't want this to come across like a promotion for the traditional stay-at-home wife and breadwinner husband combo. That's not the point of this. And we know from history that that isn't even the solution, because during the times when we had the greatest percentage of people getting married, a lot of them were unhappy. In my opinion, it's better to have a lower marriage rate than a higher divorce rate. But I do still find it interesting how much marriage is incorporated into society, and because of that, there aren't as many support systems for single people. This section on the two-parent privilege was really interesting to me, and I came out of it seeing the importance of not necessarily staying in a marriage that you're unhappy with just for the sake of the kids, but rather the importance of recognizing the challenges of single parenting and being mindful of how to compensate for them. Also, just because the data says that married couples are more involved in communities doesn't mean that we'll have no community involvement if marriage continues to be on the decline. I think the bigger problem in this issue is that we live in a society that continually encourages people to self-isolate, and with that we don't have enough ways to actually stay connected with people besides on our phones. Definitely see my loneliness epidemic video if you want more on that. Also, while you're at it, if you liked this video, I would highly encourage you to take a second to subscribe, because I only put out one of these video essays every month.
That's funny. She said, I do think a lower marriage rate is better than a higher divorce rate, but then Erin says, we have a lower marriage rate and a higher divorce rate. Don't worry, we've got everything accomplished here. So yeah, that's about the end of that video. Some of you are wondering the name of that creator. It is Ashley Embers, if you're interested in going and checking out that video. I definitely think that she did a great job with this video, presenting information, stats, statistics, other perspectives, while still being pretty neutral and unbiased. But my ultimate takeaways from it ultimately ended up being like, you know, it does seem as though marriage has significant social benefits. It almost seems as though, you know, she didn't really get too into the financial benefits of marriage outside of the fact that children seem to see more poverty in separate homes, which I think I went a little bit more into, citing, you know, the way that family court tends to exacerbate that problem. But you know, when it comes to like the finances of individuals who are living together and cohabitating, even, it seems as though without that marital commitment, they're still not seeing the same financial success, even with like similar tax breaks and access to benefits, because there's really not significantly more. You know, I think a lot of people don't realize you can still earn the earned income tax credit, for example, as an unmarried couple. Just one of you claims head of household and you kind of make that work there. So I'm kind of surprised. I think I got a little bit trad-pilled on this one, to where I started to respect the foundation of marriage a little bit more. I think I probably would encourage marriage more, but alongside proper marriage counseling, speaking at great length to married couples that you admire, asking a lot of questions, being mature, having faith in your commitments. Like, there's a few too many people who get married because they think it's what they're supposed to do, but they don't treat it as any kind of sacred union. They're like, well, it's still fine if I cheat. It's still fine if I commit financial infidelity and hide my spending from my spouse. It's still fine if I, you know, develop addictions and gambling problems. Like, you got to actually take it seriously, though. Otherwise, you don't get the benefits of the institution that she described, you know? Kama, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about prenups. Now, here's another thing that I don't think people realize. Do you know that half of all prenups are thrown out? Yeah, and you also cannot include anything in a prenup about parenting time or child support. The only thing a prenup really does is establish premarital assets. And even then, if it's been a long enough time, they can just say, like, Yeah, we decided 10 years ago that the house would be entirely yours because you bought it before you ever knew her, and that these cars would be yours, but your career has grown significantly and it's been long enough to rightfully say that the spouse has helped with that, so we are going to give her half the house, we are going to give her half the cars. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can easily do that. So just something to keep in mind when it comes to prenups is the ultimate relationship insurance is being a good partner and making sure that your value always exists outside of your wallet. Because like I always tell guys, if you make your primary value in the relationship your paycheck, there goes my battery. Let me fix that real quick. It's usually around 1 o'clock that it dies, but we've been working this thing today, I guess. Oh yeah, I was also filming a commercial prior to this, so that's also what did it. There we go. But yeah, I try to warn fellas when it comes to marriage, if you make your primary value your paycheck, you're playing a very dangerous game because she can get that paycheck whether she's married to you or not. There needs to be something else that keeps her wanting you to come home besides that paycheck. And it's same with women who they really lust after this Tradwife lifestyle, and they're like, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom. I just want to be the stay-at-home wife. Well, if you're not doing anything to secure some kind of independence or way of saving outside of your marriage, you're also putting yourself in a very dangerous position because he could leave you at any time and you'll have access to literally nothing. So this is where the ultimate relationship insurance is treating each other so well that you just actually don't want to lose each other. At the end of the day, is the best thing you can do for your marriage. Easier said than done, though. Single income household seems so unrealistic. I know, there's like this constant back and forth dialogue I've been seeing where a lot of guys are like, no, you can live off of a single income, you just have to make sacrifices. And I think for some people that's true, and congrats if you can, but I don't think we're in a position where we can really shame people who are like, it's got to be dual income. You know, I don't think we can shame anybody if a man is like, I know that I would not be comfortable with a wife who does not know how to work. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think men are absolutely entitled to have that opinion, have that preference, that deal breaker, quite frankly. Now that said, it is time for me to start queuing up that next video of the day that I wanted to share with you guys. Some of you, if you weren't here for my stream of it, I'm sure you haven't missed it anywhere in the media. The popular story of the Florida man who confronts his son's bully, a young girl. And by the way, a lot of people rightfully pointed out, there's no evidence of any bullying. So all we see in the end is a grown man power slapping the hell out of a minor female child on behalf of his minor son, which we also learned has a maximum penalty of up to 40 years and like $55,000 in court fines. Not at all worth it. Like, I don't even care what that kid was doing to bully your son, if they were. You should have slapped the parents. Would have only been 1 year and $1,000, okay? Should have power slapped the parents is my final say on that one. Okay, if you don't know what I'm talking about, that live is still available. You can go watch it after this. There's also plenty of other creators with takes on that subject. But now we have another parent who has chosen to confront their child's bully. And wouldn't you know it if these situations just don't end well? They just continue to not end well. Let's get into it. First, I'm going to read this super chat from Peter Edwards. Thank you so much for the generous dono. Peter says 70% of divorces are initiated by women, whereas men value more on the vows said during the ceremony. Of course, there are exceptions. I will say this. I'm a little bit torn on that statistic. A lot of people cite that to prove, oh, well, women are the first ones to give up on the marriage. I don't know if it's that so much as just women are more likely to engage in the clerical duties of a decision that likely both spouses contributed to. It also might have a lot to do with the fact that more often women have less to lose from the marriage, and so they're more eager to get it over with, whereas a man is like, if I don't file, I lose the house in less time. You know what I'm saying? But typically, I think the dissolution of a marriage tends to be a mutual effort. You know, there's plenty of women who file for divorce, but it's after their husband's already been cheating on them with 5 of his secretaries, and he already moved out and has another affair child on the way. So it's hard to say case by case if it's fully women who are responsible for all of these divorces, or if they're just the ones who take on the clerical responsibility of it, right? Now, going into this new video. This is a new parent who has decided to confront their child's bully. Let's see how it goes down.
You think you're fucking cool, bud? You think you're fucking cool?
Oh.
You wanna fucking pick on some more kids? You wanna pick on some more kids?
So, let's just slow this right down. Here's dad. He sees his child's bully. His child must have said something to him at pickup. You know, there's that kid that keeps messing with me, and dad decides to just go aggro mode.
Think you're fucking cool, bud?
Goes right up, shoves his gut right into this kid's chest. I don't even know what that counts as, quite frankly. like the reverse of Peach from Super Smash Bros. When she does the ha-cha and whacks you with her ass. But he just is like getting him with the gut, right? Now, we have a child walking up here. What I've come to learn is this is the man's son. I don't think that he realized that by saying something like, yeah, dad, that's the kid, that it was gonna instigate a boss fight, one that would surely make his life a lot worse. But he comes up and he tries to get his dad to disengage, and look what dad does.
Kids? You wanna pick on some more kids?
This is how you know that whatever bully confrontation this is, it's all about the dad and his ego and his traumas, and doesn't even have to do with the child anymore, because he straight up just pushed his own child out of the way. He was like, beat it, kid. I'm trying to beat up a little kid and make this is about me, okay? I'm flashing back to when I was your size and I couldn't do this, so I gotta stand up for little me who wasn't this big when it was happening to me. Like, I get it. I feel what this man must be going through, okay? But I don't know if this is the way, brother. Also, it is my belief that the bully here is a male who happens to just have a top knot hairstyle, to answer the question.
You think it's fucking funny? You think it's funny? Got that on video?
Oh, there's no coming back from that one. Oh, Lord, for those of you audio only and missed it, and we'll watch it one more time for posterity's sake, as I'm inclined to pun. But after this dude comes running up to this minor child, sticking his gut in his face, trying to act all tough and intimidating, the kids did not allow that to keep going for long. Okay.
You wanna pick on some more kids? You think it's fucking funny? You think it's funny?
You can see that they start plotting something because one of the kids sees the cameraman and points, and he's kind of like, oh, keep filming. And now now that I'm hearing it for the first time, you can hear them trying to tell him, like, we're recording you. And he goes, I don't care. I don't care. Narrator voice. He would, in fact, quickly come to care. We got this kid, walks up, and then with the swiftness, pantses the dude, and we got bare ass. Oh my God. I would, there's no way this kid does not feel vindicated to all hell. No one was expecting that either. I don't think anyone was expecting full commando on the stream. Pulls it up, luckily without anybody having to see the berries going on there, and then he goes.
Got that on video?
I'm wondering what even happened next there, if he was trying to like intimidate him to delete it or something, but he surely didn't. Man, you parents, for many, many reasons, we really gotta stop thinking this is the way to handle our kids' bullies, cause now that kid's gotta worry about himself getting bullied and his dad getting bullied. Now they're bullying both of y'all at the school. And there's nothing we can do about it at this point. Because what? You really think the kids are going to get in trouble at that point for pantsing you? You really think they're going to be the ones? That man's going to get in trouble for someone else pantsing him. Now he's going to have to face having exposed himself to a bunch of minor children. And that might be a worse charge than the power slapping dad gets. Because I would definitely consider, look, again, I said this in the last stream. All right, if someone laid hands on my child, even if my child was originally the aggressor, now we have to fight. Now I have to make you take a nap. Now I have to bow and arrow the ever-living shit out of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care. If you come up to me and you're like, your child is bullying my child, I will absolutely make sure it's handled in my home. I will make sure my child understands that it is not okay to do that. That is not the way we are raising them. Absolutely, I will work with you when you confront me on something like that. If you choose to handle it yourself and you lay hands on my child, you will face a ferociousness unlike you have ever seen before. I will bite off your eyelids. It will get so nasty if you touch my child. Okay, now that being said, let's say you don't power slap my child. Let's say all you do is aggressively charge them and then spring load your Pillsbury Doughboy gut onto their face. Listen, my child did not ask to use a Sonic the Hedgehog style spring jump pad on their face, and so we still have to fight. I still have to fight you now. Okay, I would consider, I'm pressing assault charges. You don't have to lay hands to lay your belly. My kid did not want that belly in their face. Charges will be pressed. Maybe if I don't choose to handle it myself first. Okay, I'm still coming for you, but dude, I will make it hell for you. I will literally be like, I didn't see that kid pull his pants down. He bent down to tie his shoe at the same time that man mooned all of everybody. The whole place, put him on a sex offender list. I'm coming for your ass. If I'm the parent of the child that you just came charging after, trying to handle street justice at the elementary school, yeah, I'm coming for you, man. I think he deserves everything that comes after him, dude. He definitely deserves this video to embarrass the shit out of him. Now, I do feel bad for his kid. If his kid was already getting bullied, oh, he's getting bullied 10 times harder now. You're going to have to change schools. You're going to have to change school districts. Move out of state. Honestly, Just move out of the whole country. There's no recovering at this point. You can't go back. There's no coming back. Cameron says Lauren coming in with the intruder alert. Man, that's a callback to one of my earliest videos, actually. Oh my god, dude. Let me see this. KR Maho says, is the US literally that effed? Think he might fight charges because some shit kid pulled down his pants? It's extremely possible. It's extremely possible that they're going to argue that he put himself in the position to having his genitals exposed to these kids. You know, they might come after him for inappropriate dress wear. They might blame him for the wardrobe malfunction, perhaps. All right. Jojo says, oh dear, I just hopped in and I'm scared of what's happening. So was that entire playground, dude. They were, Samantha says, gotta go somewhere with no internet. Oh my god, yeah, that's a crazy one. But now the OP of this post actually condemns the kids who pulled down the dad's pants. They said bullies need to be put in their place, but these other bullies prevented it. And I'm thinking, like, maybe they do, but probably not from a grown-ass adult. You know what I mean? I even joked, like, I'm surely these parents can hire another minor to do their dirty work. Where are the minor mercenaries on the black web? Come on. Surely we've got to have one. So his outfit brought on the assault. He should have thought about what he was wearing. I'm just saying, look, you put yourself in a very dangerous situation, man. We've talked too about how ruthless these kids can be. You know, like, let's talk about the fact that, you know, you're a grown-ass adult going to beat up a kid who's got a completely different size difference to you. But let's talk about the fact that what if you don't even win? What if you go in to beat up your kid's bully and you get your ass beat? Then what? Because at the end of the day, those minors are not going to be the ones fully charged for it. You're going to bear the responsibility because as the grown adult, it was your responsibility to not start shit with children to begin with. And also, bro needed to be wearing some skivvies. I'm sorry. Why are we... It is his right to go commando, but man, he sure picked the wrong place to do it. Okay? I saw no fists flying. No, there weren't. But I'm saying, like, this is definitely one of the potential outcomes for all these adults going in trying to create street justice with minor children. There is no guarantee that these adults will win. So far, they have stayed losing. Dylan says, you wear gym shorts outside the gym, your Jimmy might go on display. You get what you get. I mean, it's kind of, I will say, you know, natural disasters can happen at any given time. You know, if it wasn't, those looked really loose. It did not look like it would require much force. Like, it could be like a stick pulls him, and he's still flashing everybody. All right? Lauren, he wasn't going to beat him up. But I'm saying it doesn't matter what his intention is. You go at these kids, charging at them, intimidating them like that, they might start the fight. They might be the one who takes you shoving your gut into their face as the first slap. And they might just finish what you started. I don't think these parents are really thinking clearly when they go into these. Okay? Like, we're swiftly learning from all of these events that maybe going and trying to confront our kids' bullies one-on-one without any administration, without the parents present, is going to continuously go wrong. You know? Like, you guys got to talk to the parents. You guys got to talk to the school administration. You're trying to go over their heads, and now they're just going below your belt. The dad made physical contact with the kid. I don't care if you didn't intend to lift your hands. You go smacking your big old belly into my kid after charging them fully, I'm gonna have to fight you. That's just me. I'm gonna have to fight him. All right? It was his belly, not his hands. I don't know. Let's Google. Does me slapping someone with my belly count as assault? I might have to chat GPT this one. I'm not finding any specific belly charges. All right, chat GPT, help me out here. If someone charges at me and slams into my face with their belly on purpose, is that assault? Especially if I'm a minor. ChatGPT says yes, that could be considered assault. Assault generally refers to an intentional act that causes another person fear of imminent harm, while battery refers to actual physical contact that causes harm or is offensive. So it could be assault and battery. Quite frankly, I would consider that an intimidating threat. I would consider that a reasonable threat that there will be imminent harm. And I would consider it battery. Definitely. I would consider that bun battered. Belly bump is 4th degree assault, says Michael McIntyre. Oh, snap. Oh, snap with the belly threats. Okay. Yeah, dude, I would love to know the situation that ended up going there. Also, someone posted this GIF that I thought was very appropriate. It's exactly what happened there. Can't wait for the grandfather confronts his grandson's dad's bully next. Poor kid. This dad just made everything so much worse. Bro's kid is effing toast. Kid is definitely getting bullied 10 times harder now. Someone else says, this isn't how I expected forcibly cornering a child to go at all. Man, what a year. What a year. These days, sneezing is assault. Look, the thing is, I would typically agree with you if someone was like, if you're at a crowded mall and someone like bumps into you and you try to call it assault, sure. But like what that dad did was definitely, that dad was 100% out of line. You cannot go charging a minor child and physically start pushing them back with your entire body. Especially when you're not wearing no skivvies. Okay? It's getting weird. Alright? Is farting also considered assault? No. But it might cause emotional damage. If you fully get Dutch ovened, that can be rough. Jabba the Gut Jr. is so Jover. Oh, man. I had to share that one, though, because we just shared the other one, and look, we gotta stop. We gotta stop trying to come after our kids' bullies. It's not working out, man. Okay. I'm gonna do one other YouTube video while we're responding to YouTube videos today. This is the next one that I want us to react to. I'm gonna take a quick potty break, and then when we come back, let's watch this one together. Let's watch Abba and Preach's coverage of my fiance wants to quit her job to be a tradwife because of TikTok. Should I cancel my wedding? This one's a little bit old. It's like 11 months old, but someone sent this to me. They wanted me to react to it. And I love Abba and Preach, so that sounds like a fun one to react to for a shorter stream today. So let me do a quick BRB. I'll be back with some kind of a cat or dog for animal tax, and then we'll get into this next video. Okay. I'm bearing cats. Hey, cat. What? Focus on us. There we go. I come with Mochi. Can you hear him purring? As usual, we must show off his trunkerness. Oh, you're a big boy. Oh, look at this big chunk. The Dadvocate to Mochi comparison. Oh, he's such a big boy. Miles loves him too. Miles, would you like your attention now too? Hugs. What a good baby. Oh, thank you, Miles. Oh, thank you. Good kisses. Good. What made your baby man? Oh, such a good Mr. Baby Man. Alright, good job, everybody. Good show. We successfully pet taxed. My face is covered in slobber. Also, to answer the question, I do not own a snake. I just own a membership to the local reptile zoo that I visit frequently. So that boa constrictor you guys saw me with on Instagram, that is not mine. That is Beyonce. Yeah, Mochi is he's a chonkerton. He was also one of our rescues. Yes, Were Pixie, you use those Mochi emotes. Oliver loves the fur babies. I wish I could bring them with me when I come down to Idaho, you know, but that would be pretty unnecessary and stressful for them, probably. Yeah, they're great. They're great. Also, let's get into this. Yeah, if you guys are not familiar with Tradwives, by the way, the ones featured here are, this one is a woman named Esty, I don't remember her last name, and this is Nora Smith. It's my understanding, I don't know if both of them do, but Nora Smith comes from a Mormon background, where the whole Tradwife thing is like very in and chic and trendy right now. Esty, I'm not sure if she has a religious background or if she just likes it, but the idea of being a Tradwife is essentially you enjoy the traditional role of being the stay-at-home mom and wife. You do not work outside of the home. Your domestic responsibilities are number one. You tend to dress a lot more conservatively, and this doesn't sound harmful to probably most of you, but it's heavily scrutinized by a lot of other women who, some of them have good intentions in their criticisms. They're simply worried that these women would not be able to sustain their lifestyles should anything happen to the man or if he leaves her for any reason. Other women look at it from a more bitter and jaded perspective. Some people look at it completely from a class warfare perspective. They look at these people as simply flexing their luxury class. They look at it as, this is not even a sustainable lifestyle for most people. You're just showing off how much wealth you have. So there's a lot of criticisms going into it. And I will say, the entire premise of this video, which appears to be someone hoping to quit their job to fulfill this lifestyle, may end up drawing on some of these criticisms, because one integral part of making the trad wife style work is consent from both parties, right? Like, it would be really difficult for you to live the trad wife lifestyle if you say, for example, didn't have a husband or didn't have a husband who could afford it and would therefore put so much pressure and poverty on everybody if you suddenly changed the dynamic that has been working for your home. You know, this is where we get these concepts of, you know, we talk a lot about toxic masculinity, but we don't really talk about the fact that what contributes to the same issues that these women complain about is toxic feminine ideals that, oh, you're not a real man if you can't pay 100% of the bills, and what the issues that that leads to as well. So I'm sure that Abba and Preach will discuss these things. Let's find out.
My fiance wants to become a Tradwife after a wedding, and I am tempted to call off the wedding as a result. Should I call off the wedding? I'm a 29 male, and my fiance is 27. I'll say her name's Kate. I've been with Kate for 4 years, engaged for 1, due to get married in July, and I do love Kate and can't wait to spend the rest of my life with her, but lately she's been becoming serious about becoming a Tradwife after getting married, and I'm having a hard time getting on board. I was then very surprised and asked her what made her suddenly desire to just stay at home and work. To my shock, she said TikTok of all things. So what this really comes down to is I think a lot of people are just running away from the fact that they're insecure about their future and they're just latching onto things that they see on social media. I'm sorry. I'm calling the ladies out on this one. The amount of times women have told me, I want a farm.
I was just about to bring that up. I'm like, man, that's so true too, because if you haven't already been considering like, yeah, my place is at home, I'm happiest at home, I know I want to raise kids, I know I want to just take care of the house, like that's what I'm going to be good at, and then it took seeing it on TikTok for you to even imagine it, that's probably not really for you. I was literally just thinking like, man, that's just like people who see people on TikTok raising a farm, and then they're like, it would be so easy to just have a bunch of chickens. And it's not. I love that I had the exact same thought too.
I want a farm. I want a farm so I can get our own milk and then get our own cheese and grow our own crops. And I'm like, bitch, all your plants are dead. You can't keep a fucking fern alive. And you want to do what? People see these things through this lens of social media and they're convinced that this is the life that they want. You're not getting a farm, and all those animals are going to be better off because they don't have you.
This morning I asked my toddlers what they wanted for breakfast, and they both said cereal, so cereal it was, and we got started right away. I made 2 types of cereal. The first one was chocolate chip cookie cereal, so I mixed some flour, peanut butter, maple syrup, milk, and chocolate, and formed that into a dough. Then I rolled tiny little balls and flattened them out to resemble. Put those in the oven as well for about 10 minutes.
Nara Smith is famous for these videos, and I don't think it's satire, but I don't think it's as real as people think it is. Like, I think it's true that she really does have this much time on her hands, and I don't think that she always and 100% of the time cooks her children individual hand-rolled balls of cereal and spends 45 minutes to 4 hours creating a homegrown bowl of cereal every single morning while wearing a luxury designer robe. No, I don't think so. But I do think she has the time to curate videos as though she does. I do think she has that. Jojo, thank you for the generous super chat, says, I also find it unfair to the husband. Why add stress to them and bring an early death? We have a saying in Arabic, you can't clap with one hand. It's pretty real out here, I will say. Like, I've heard from men who are like really struggling to provide for their families, and without any help, like, a lot of them flip through that manual, you know, not to make it too dark, but it is a lot of stress. People say that, like, you know, working at home is obviously no walk in the ballpark either, but I hate when people try to act like going to work for someone else is also a break compared to not having to work at home, because it's so stressful and competitive, so many of these fields. And also, like, if I find out that this is what you're doing when you're staying at home, I already know I'm busier than you.
Those were done, I let those cool.
Have you ever asked yourself why it is that tradwives and other conservative female influencers who promote traditional gender roles have all the time in the world to make cereal from scratch, but somehow never seem to record themselves doing essential domestic labor like vacuuming, trying to get a particularly nasty stain out of a shirt, or scrubbing a toilet?
Okay.
That is so true. Wow, I didn't know that we would see Professor Neil in here, but I know that he has also come for SD, so it doesn't surprise me that he's come for Nara. And I remember when he came for SD, he got a lot of hate. I wonder if they're going to cover that video too of Professor Neil's. But he does make a really great point there. These tradwives are not like, look how glorified being a stay-at-home mom is, and then it's like unclogging the toilet, you know what I mean? But that is real. That's actually real domestic labor right there.
You aren't aware this is a huge fad right now. It's basically these women who call themselves tradwives, and they're like, I'm going to make bread from scratch, and I'm going to quilt a skirt from my 2-year-old or whatever. They're constantly doing stuff like this, and this video genre is incredibly popular. So he's talking about this. Let's watch.
It's always something that, strictly speaking, is unnecessary, and they are doing it the hardest way possible. Because the answer is that it is
So
for
true.
show. It is all a performance. In his remarkably prescient 1899 book, The Theory of the Leisure Class, Thorsten Veblen coined the terms conspicuous consumption and conspicuous leisure, suggesting that those with wealth and power, no longer having any economic production to
leisure
contribute
class.
themselves, instead contribute to the production and consumption of leisure. And those consumption practices, those leisure activities, are conspicuous precisely because that is how the leisure class signals their difference from the working class, signals their exceptionality and their superiority.
Facts, because at the end of the day, if you're
Damn.
an actual trad wife in a regular marriage that's not with some really rich person,
You don't have time.
you don't have time to make cereal. You're actually taking care of 2-3 kids. You're probably going to be going to buy stuff, managing the day-to-day.
That's the whole point of cereal. I feel like cereal exists for those of us who do not have time to really be making breakfast or whatever meal of the day we're choosing cereal at. There are some of us who have barely survived a day by eating cereal for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Okay? That's the whole point of cereal, is that you don't have time to add anything more than milk to a dish. And we've got this lady up in here rolling individual balls for breakfast. Also so unrealistic, because we all know that kids do not tell you that they're hungry at an appropriate time. You'll be like, hey, it's lunchtime, come eat. I'm not hungry right now. Hey, it's dinner time, come eat. I'm not hungry right now. And then they'll literally wait until you're tucking them in to go to bed and they go, I'm hungry. Like, they're not telling you. And by the time they tell you they're hungry, they're starving. You have like anywhere between 12 seconds and 4 minutes to get them food before they are hangry as all hell, dude. So there is no shot that Nara's kids were like, we'd like cereal for dinner, mother. And by the time she finishes all of this, they're like, yes, now is an adequate time to eat. Before they're like already destroying the kitchen and staging a coup. I call bullshit.
Day household. You ain't got time to be
You're gonna
making.
buy fucking bread. Okay? You're gonna buy your motherfucking bread. What are you talking about? You're not gonna fucking sit here and do it. You're gonna buy it. Why? Because I ain't got no time. 'Cause I gotta go back home. I gotta pack lunches. I gotta do the house. I gotta clean. I gotta do laundry. I gotta help with homeworks. I'm not gonna do the fucking bread. I'm gonna buy it. Same thing with baking a pie. Oh, I'm gonna bake a pie. Shut up. I'm gonna thrift at best. I'm gonna thrift at best. I don't have time to sit here and be like, contemplating. No, I got shit to do. Shit need to be titty up in the house. Ain't nobody got time for that. Most of you don't have a house and don't know how much it is, how much time consuming it is. You're gonna sit here and be like, oh, I'm gonna do this shit for you. I'm gonna make fresh pasta. It takes long. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Signaling that this woman and her family do
How do
not.
I
time for that?
There we go.
Like a working class motherfucker that like you got a normal job and a normal payout. No, you don't, because you're trad, so you don't work. So he has to work twice as hard. Well, you won't have to. Hey, what did you do today, honey? Oh, today I made bread. Yeah, I made bread. Go buy it, stupid.
The reason why bakeries are popular, even in the most traditional places, because people go to the bakery to get it done because it's too time consuming.
I gotta wait 3 hours for that shit to bake. No, let me buy it.
Who's you making cereal?
Like, let's be very real. These people who have all this time to like be recording, like Nara Smith has a housekeeper. Let's be so real. Could you imagine being like Lupita working on the house while she's filming and you're just like, a job's a job. A job's a job.
Nobody's making
pasta. I could understand.
Why?
Because getting
pasta is easy.
Pasta is not the same.
Pasta is easy. Still time consuming though.
Still time consuming, but pasta, like even for Italians, for example, they make a lot of their own pasta.
Or they go to the place that make the pasta.
Or they are really good. Or yes, fair. If you have access to that, it's just not a real trad life. That's all I'll say.
Remember in the 50s? No, you don't remember because you were not born. I don't remember because I was not born too. But in the 50s, you know, there was some wives, you know, when they got together, you know, and oh look, I baked a pie, and you were better than the one that bought it. Oh no, it's homemade. When you receive someone at home, I had time to bake the pie myself, right? Cherry pie that I make. Oh yeah, it's home cooked. Oh, you're so good. And it's just the same thing.
I also want to read this comment here real quick from SVR says, if my trad wife was making cereal on a regular basis instead of healthy food, there would be an audit. Man, that's like so valid because I was actually thinking about that when she was making the cereal. I'm like, so you put flour, chocolate, and what was it, like maple syrup? I'm like, this isn't even a healthy cereal at this point, so you might as well just be using the store-bought stuff, you know what I mean? Like, you're not really using any exceptionally healthy ingredients that are like high in protein or fibers or anything for your kids, so like, you might as well just feed them Frosted Flakes at this point.
Yeah, but it's on TikTok and it makes money.
Whenever they're telling you, oh look, I made this from scratch, it screams, I'm better than y'all because I do this on the regular. Even
dude, you know what too? Sorry to keep pausing, but contributing to Abba's point about, you know, it's glamorized because it's on TikTok and it makes money, is a woman saying, I don't want to work because I want to be an influencer, basically the exact same thing as when a guy is like, I don't want to work, I want to make streaming video games my job. It's gotta be the same kind of thing where like any reasonable person would be pretty skeptical. You know what I mean? Like even me doing this full time, like it took years of me also working full time at a very reliable job of doing this as a side hustle before. It also took like saving up a significant nest egg for just in case, making sure I still had really good connections to return to work if this all blew up in my face. But I would never at any point be like, all right, babe, like let's take a risk and I want to be a social media star before I even had like my first couple thousand followers. That would be so dangerous. Or like when a dude is like, listen, babe, I don't need to have a real job. I quit my job at the factory because I'm gonna be a Twitch streamer. Like, it's fine for you to freak the hell out if you're in that situation. I'm sorry to all the Twitch streamers and influencers out there. But as an influencer and Twitch streamer, I feel like I'm in a position where I'm allowed to say it. Like, most of us will not make it. Even me in a pretty successful area. If I don't play my cards right, I'm fucked. Like, I completely understand how a lot of YouTubers and content creators end up, like, crashing out and being completely not able to handle this lifestyle because they don't know how to make itemized reports of their business expenses to calculate at the end of the year. They don't know how to save 30% of their income each month to make sure that they can even pay their taxes at the end of the year. Like, I know people who make more money than me and are in more debt than me because they are not able to properly run their business as a self-employed creator. It takes a lot more than just being funny, being entertaining, knowing what subjects people want to listen to. You also have to have some kind of business and financial knowledge, or hire someone who does, because all these people doing it kind of all willy-nilly are going to be more of a liability than their family than they are going to add any actually helpful income.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Better than to speak.
Because you think about it, she's like, I asked my toddlers what they wanted. Okay. They said they wanted cereal. Let me make it from scratch. Shut up. Stop.
They're better than us because they are so wealthy and well off that they have nothing more important to worry about. And if we were to ever see tradwives perform essential productive domestic labor, or see their husbands perform any domestic labor at all, that would in fact mark them as failures as tradwives. As Veblen wrote in 1899, again, he could have written it yesterday, application to productive labor is a mark of poverty and subjection. It becomes inconsistent with a reputable standing in the community.
Dude, this is exactly why one of the things that I judge people the strongest off of is how they judge the janitors of the world, the waitresses, the waiters of the world. If you are not treating people doing average labor that quite frankly keeps the world spinning with the respect that they deserve because they are not earning as much money as you think that is respectable enough, then I'm just never going to respect you as a person. You know, I think a lot of you might have seen my short that I covered about the guy who says that if your wife works, you've failed. And he tries to sell this whole narrative about how, you know, if you're a man and you're not able to provide for your entire family on just your income, you're a failure, and da-da-da-da. In another one of his videos, he's talking all about how he's so disappointed in his blue-collar friends because he sees them working way more hours than him week after week, and yet he makes way more money than him. But when he tries to get them to take his course and he tries to give them his tricks and secrets, they're not listening, and so they're just not making as much money as him. And keep in mind, what this man does for a living is he's a Lego reseller. So he buys limited edition Lego sets in bulk, holds onto them for a couple of years, and then sells them when he's able to get a return on it. It's basically like stocks, but with a more physical asset, and that seems to be working for him as a pretty high passive revenue, low effort job, and more power to him for that. But when he made this video, I had to comment, and I'm like, God, you're so close. Like, you're so close to getting it. But if everybody sold Legos, who would build the world? It's almost like we should still be respecting the everyday worker as much, if not maybe more, than people who happen to figure out an infinite money glitch through something super easy and low effort, right? That's a constant place that I have such an aggravation, is with our failure to respect true labor of the world. And I think that this is one of those videos that Professor Neal gets absolutely right, because even if it wasn't necessarily Nara Smith's full intention to go flexing her wealth, as opposed to maybe just like being a bit facetious and sarcastic and playing a character, which I think is her main intention, she can't blame any of us for translating it this way, for receiving the information through the lens of you're flexing your leisure class, as Neal puts it.
Because these videos are not instructional. They are maybe inspirational, but they are always performative. This is not real labor.
It's just aesthetic.
This is symbolic labor. It is nothing more than social signaling that this woman and her family belong.
Because, like, I want y'all to think about the whole video. Her makeup's all done. She's in a nightgown, so she's, like, kind of signaling. She has everything done here.
Her outfits that she cooks in, they continuously make me laugh. Like, this is why I'm not a complete Nara Smith hater. You know, I don't know how her family ended up getting the money that she got, and I don't necessarily hate her for what she's doing, because it does bring me some entertainment. I laugh so hard every time I see her, like, Today we'll be baking a completely fresh from scratch organic cake to celebrate my daughter's 740th day existing as a sentient human. And then like she'll be wearing the most elaborate like pink fluffy like expensive material sweater, like things that no reasonable person would ever imagine cooking in, and she does it time and time again. She'll be wearing like a friggin' Met Gala ball dress while making popcorn from scratch. It's so funny to me.
Then she's got the wooden bowl. Everything is perfectly laid out in the kitchen, exemplarily clean at all times. Like this is a set. It's like a little film set for her thing.
It's like the only person that I've seen all done up when they cook is Yada. And she's on Food Network, so it's gonna look good for TV. That's the same thing. It's a performance.
Is that a Louis Vuitton oven mitt? I'm gonna have to keep an eye out.
And it is also how she builds and signals her value if you are the sort of person who operates within an exchange economy that assigns high and low value to human beings. Because her value to her husband is not in her ability to care for the home or care for the children, right? Anyone who is able to engage in this level of conspicuous leisure has somebody that they are paying to do all of those things.
What's also funny is like, how often do your toddlers eat the whole bowl of cereal that you make for them too? Imagine she does all this, they don't even eat it.
No, her value is instead in her ability to perform the role of trophy wife and to be the ultimate realization and personification of her husband's socioeconomic prowess. Because tradwives are conspicuous consumers, yes, but it is the audience's consumption of tradwives that truly makes them valuable to their husbands.
That's a ridiculous video. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. At the end of the day, should you be able to do this if you want to? Sure. Absolutely. But this new obsession that everyone has with being a trad wife, especially in a day and age where that financial possibility is dwindling like crazy, it's a bit concerning.
I think that they both do it though. I don't think that it is that ridiculous. I don't think Professor Neil is really far off here. I think that we're all so guilty of this. You know, just like men do get to benefit when women post these videos getting to live in like a comfortable house and dressed to the nines and looking so beautiful, you know, men definitely have a societal and measured benefit from that. I think that the statistics have come out that married men get promoted faster, are hired more often, and see much greater career and social success when they have a presentable wife. And similarly, I've seen so many videos from women who are like bragging about the fact that they don't have to do anything because of their husbands. And it's like, yeah, I don't have to work, and you know, my husband earns all the money and he buys me this and he buys me that, and you know, they also get to benefit from such a lifestyle and they also get to brag about it. So yeah, I definitely don't think it's just women guilty of participating in the exploitation and braggadociousness of wealth, right? But I do think that that's a little bit of what's happening, yes.
I'm seeing how popular this new fad is. And look, I can understand that this movement has grown popular in the wake of telling women that having a job is the most important thing in the world.
I did make a Ballerina Farms video, by the way. You can look it up. Just type in Dadvocate Ballerina Farms. You'll find it.
The counterbalance to that from a feminist standpoint is the reality that like being at home for your family, taking care of them is also a wonderful thing. And so I can understand that messaging becoming more and more popular as a lot of women felt unfulfilled by having a career. But I think it's important.
So what about this guy's wife?
When
are we getting into that?
So hard. The reality is financially most of us are not going to be able to live that life. Most of us are going to have to work. Both people in the couple are going to have jobs. Mm-hmm. So the more that this TikTok stuff sells this thing, the more you start to realize like, oh, this is a weird thing. I actually read a story recently.
What?
I'll read the story. Bit of background: we live in a major city. I earn an average salary. She earns an okay salary working as a store manager. Together we earn enough to pay the rent for a small flat, pay the bills, and have a small amount left over for some small luxuries, takeout, going to the movies, etc. It takes forever us to make substantial savings, most of which are going to this wedding, but we are doing okay. and that is with 2 incomes. While I do earn more than her, it's not mega bucks more, and we drop just 1 income, we would just be surviving. True, her salary isn't anything glamorous, but it's enough to help pay the bills and add to the savings pot. Now for the issue. Shortly after New Year's, Kate and I were just chilling on the couch after workday when Kate brought up the post-wedding life. It mentioned the idea of becoming a trad wife after marriage. I had never heard of this before and asked her what that was. She explained that it meant traditional wife, and it was for wives that stayed at home, cooked, looked after the household chores, including cleaning and cooking, and more importantly, looked after the husband by tending to his needs.
See, I don't like the fact that she's trying to present this as a post-marriage thing. That's the part that I think is whack. I think it's whack anytime a person thinks that anything about a wedding or a ring is going to just like switch things over like that. You know what I mean? People who are like, well, yeah, he's been cheating on me while we're dating, but once we're married, he won't cheat on me anymore. Or like, yeah, you know, she doesn't really clean up the house, but once she becomes a wife, I think that she'll start. No, like when people tell you who they are, you should just believe them, right? And so it doesn't make any sense to date and get to know each other as these certain people in these certain roles, but then the second that the marriage happens, now you're going to flip and alternate and change roles and change positions and start up this brand new lifestyle that neither of you have ever even seen from the other person before and have no idea what to expect. You know, you can argue that that happens a lot for more traditional and conventional families who don't even move in together until after the marriage. So you basically are always, you know, there's always going to be things that you learn about a person once you're married, sure. But if he doesn't know what it's like to be completely taken care of by you as a trad wife, like, it's going to be a lot more vague for him to even consider agreeing to when he doesn't even know what that looks like or how capable you are of doing it. You know, he doesn't even know how, he clearly doesn't know how capable he is of doing it because he's never considered being the sole breadwinner before, you know?
I said that sounded like a housewife, and she said it was more than just a normal housewife, because a trad wife does everything herself to look after the home and the husband without any paid work.
Run.
Preach says run.
Because being a trad, right there in the formulation of it, no, it's not a housewife. I'm better than that. That's what it is. I'm not a housewife. No, not a housewife. I am better. She wants.
It reminds me of this documentary I just watched where this woman was absolutely working as a prostitute, but whenever anybody like called her a prostitute, she was like, no, I'm just a woman who enjoys the generosities of the men I go on dates with. That's love the marketing strategy.
The position, she wants the title. The title sounds exciting. I'm a trad wife. You know what? Being a trad wife is a privilege. It's a privilege. Yup. You do not, her or you, make enough for her to be a trad wife.
My also big question is, y'all ain't got no kids.
Y'all ain't got no kids.
I will, dude, that's one thing that like makes me lose my mind too, is women who are like, I want to be a stay-at-home wife. I want to be a stay-at-home, child-free wife. So you just want to be somebody's dependent at that point. Because I really don't understand, because like the contributions at that point can't be that amazing. I personally would never go for it, even as a person who was like, yeah, in the beginning, you know, had my husband stay at home to watch the baby. A baby is a full-time job, dude, and daycare is so expensive. But if we're empty nesters and TJ goes, hey, I want to quit working so I can be a stay-at-home husband, and do what? And what do you mean? Like, I would not be interested in that whatsoever, dude.
That's not a Tradwife.
Y'all ain't got no babies.
That's a motherfucker that stays home and do nothing.
You a leech.
You a leech. I want to be.
They're not talking about Ballerina Farms, Polly Nikes. They're talking about this specific couple from this post that has already said that they don't have kids.
A Tradwife. No. They don't want to do shit.
That's it. Also, I like how she's like, no, a housewife is different than a tradwife.
No, it's not.
Because a tradwife does everything in caps to look after the home. Well, what does that even mean? What you gonna?
I mean, that justifies me not working and not bring money. I do everything here. So you bring the money.
Like, there are some people who would pay extra for that. I know a lot of men who are like, oh, my wife, like, does not need to work because I'm just happy coming home to the smell of clean linens. Like, I'm happy to have someone cooking. Like, to me, it's worth it to just have someone taking care of the home. Like, for some people, it's absolutely worth it. But again, the key piece here is the consent piece. Like, he has to be the type of guy who's like, yeah, my wife doesn't have to work because I just value someone at home taking care of the house. There are guys like that, but like they have to start it. It's kind of like how, yeah, there are people in open marriages, but like you have to wait for both of them to tell you it's open. You can't just go assuming every marriage is open. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just go assuming every man is so cool with you just quitting your job to be a trad wife. It's probably as common as people with successful open marriages at this point, quite frankly. Peter Edwards, thank you for another very generous super chat. Peter says, my mother is a stay-at-home wife and she's had 6, of which 2 are still at home. Do you think she ever is going to go back to work? I'm curious. You don't have to super chat to answer that question. I'll try to look out for it in the chat. Shiny Luna, thank you for your super chat. Says, if you don't have kids, then why is she staying home? So that she can take care of, all caps, everything. And that's my thing, is if you say everything, girl, it better be everything. You better be taking apart the pipes, cleaning out those pipes. You better be learning how to repair things, how to fix up the home. And a lot of women can. A lot of men can. A lot of people are amazing in that role. But to me, like, I've said this before, maybe I come across as like a misogynistic dude from the 50s or whatever, but if I'm earning all of the money, I'm paying every single bill, then I will have expectations of how that home is clean, especially if we don't have any kids. Like, if I'm coming home and the place is trashed regularly, I'm not saying like, you know, a couple days of the week the kids get out of hand, you know, I have some grace for that. But like, if I'm regularly coming home to a house that is like bare minimum even, you got to get a job. You got to get a job. If you're not actually good at it, you got to go back to work. I'm not paying for this. No way.
So what, is she gonna make cereal from scratch too?
And then add it on top of the
You know what? Let me Google. What's the difference between a housewife and a trad wife?
That's a good question.
There's no difference.
But she wants to make it sound like she's better than that.
You know what it's saying? It's saying a trad wife is a housewife with a social media spin. They're basically branding it different.
It's a brand, but this is what it is.
I was thrown off guard by this, as Katie has never shown desire to just stay at home before. And the only time it was discussed was in relation to kids, which we said she was happy being a stay-at-home mom for when the kids were young, because on her salary we'd probably be paying more for childcare anyway. That makes sense.
No, that's fine. That's not the same thing.
That's not the same thing.
That's not the same thing.
Okay, good. I'm glad they distinguish that. Okay.
Yep.
More to the point, the idea of her just staying at home all day and clean cooking is a bit strange to me when we live in such a small place. Red flag. Between the two of us, we can clean the whole flat in half a day. It takes me about half an hour to vacuum and mop all the floors, for example. When I was self-processed that I thought she was joking, but she was dead serious, I was then very surprised and asked her what made her suddenly desire to just stay at home and work. To my shock, she said TikTok of all things. Apparently there are videos and TikTokers that are these trad wives that talk about how great the lifestyle is and how happy their marriages are. These trad wives claim their husbands are always happy and home life is the best. So Kate wants that for us too.
Yo, bro, bun that.
I told her that wouldn't make me happy. It makes no sense. We live in a small flat, requires low upkeep. We can't afford it. Again, I understand her income isn't great, but it's pitiful. She gave a non-committal shrug and thought that was the end of, and I thought that was the end of it. Nope. She approached me again a few days later with the idea. I told her I was against it. I tried to pry more about why she wanted to suddenly be a Tradwife. She kept banging on about TikTok and how she really does feel that her staying home would be the best thing for our marriage. She keeps bringing it up, and now it seems she's adamant. I can't get anything more out of her apart of like, it's good for our marriage. I watched some of these TikTok videos, I'm sorry, but they come across as really creepy. These Tradwives seem to do nothing but dress like Lucy Ball and cook bread from scratch. It's bizarre, and not something I'm looking for in a lifetime partner.
Your partner got influenced by TikTok.
I don't know how much more I can tell Kate about how much I'm against this, and it's falling on deaf ears. As a result, I'm seriously reconsidering our relationship.
And it's so funny, too, because just as I mentioned earlier, you know, like, a lot of people just expect people to completely change as soon as the marriage happens. It's like, if this whole time this man has loved you without you dressing to the nines and, you know, making sure your outfits are always on point and your makeup is always done and the house is always clean, if he has been happy enough to propose to you and commit to an entire life with you without that, like, this whole upsell beyond the point is really unnecessary, you know? The guy who gets 2 hamburgers from Burger King every week and knows that it's always going to be $3.12 and is happy with that, with his just 2 burgers, you can't tell him, like, no, but I promise you that you will actually be so much happier if instead you upgrade that to 2 Whoppers and a supersized drink and a super fry, and you're like, I've literally been enjoying this for lunch once a week for the past 8 years. Like, I don't need the Whoppers, man. Like, it's also very difficult to convince a man like to completely change his perspective of what makes him happy, especially if what you're trying to sell him is that he'll be happier if he spends more money. You just told this man you can both clean the entire flat in about half an hour. Okay? That said, I don't think that he's going to give up the financial stability and the lack of resentment that he has from having an equal partner to save about 15 minutes of his share of the weekly chores, man. I really don't think it's going to be that great. Now, prices might have gone up since then, but back in my poor days, I used to always get 2 plain hamburgers from Burger King, and with sales tax in Michigan, it only came out to $3.12. I had the change down to a science so I could eat for the day, man. Never forget. Never forget.
Good. This is what I think. I think a lot of women and a lot of men feel a lot of insecurity about their future. And when you're in a job field you don't like because you chose a wrong career, or maybe you're feeling unfulfilled with your life, you look at these women on TikTok and you're like, oh, maybe if I stayed at home, I like caring for people, I like caring for my boyfriend, I'd love to care for the house, and that'll make me feel fulfilled. Now, that may be true for some people, but it's not going to be true for all of you. The same way not everyone is built for a lifelong job. Not everyone's built for a trad life. Not everyone even has the ability or the privilege to. Not everyone's going to be able to work in the field that they're super passionate about. You know, some of y'all want to write poetry for the rest of your life. It's not possible for everybody, okay? So what this really comes down to is I think a lot of people are just running away from the fact that they're insecure about their future, and they're just latching onto things that they see on social media. Be it the people who think that they're going to be entrepreneurs, they're going to make it big, the guys who think if they just go into crypto and then they're going to be rich and they're going to be fulfilled. Everyone's looking for a quick way out. That's essentially what it is.
I think that's exactly what happened here. I don't even know if we necessarily have to watch their full rest of the breakdown, but yeah, that's definitely what happened here. And the thing is, it's a lot easier to glamorize, like, wait, there's a way that I could potentially convince my husband that he's doing right by the family by allowing me to stay home and just dress however I want and do whatever I want and chill and just exist, and I'll clean the house, I guess, knowing that, like, it's a pretty low effort commitment to cleaning the house. Like, that's a lot easier to glamorize, but what we don't see is, you know, a lot of blue collar guys on TikTok being like, man, I'm going into work, you know, an extra shift, already done 80 hours this week, you know, about to make it 88, maybe 89, might stay for the whole 12er and make it a 92-hour week. Gonna find out. Like, not many guys are watching content like that and being like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I would really like to do that. No, but there are a lot of men silently suffering under the weight of trying to figure out how they're going to provide for a family completely independently on their own, feeling like failures, feeling nothing but stress and anxiety, but also feeling like they're not even allowed to express that stress and anxiety, because then it brings stress and anxiety to their wife, who's not supposed to be feeling any stress and anxiety in her desired role, because she's supposed to be in her divine feminine, and you're supposed to be in your divine masculine, which is code word for suffering. Being a Tradwife is fine when it's consensual, but you can't be Tradwife trapping these men. That's catfishing. That's tradfishing, dude. These women are out here tradfishing men. They come into the relationship all independent and strong and boss babe, and I do for myself, and I don't need no man. And then as soon as we're approaching a potential wedding date, it's time to flip the entire script, baby. It's, I'm about to ruin this man's whole career. Oh my God. Just absolute Uno reverse walking down the aisleway, man. No way. This is why I'm a big believer in premarital counseling. They bring up stuff that you really like would not even think about. Stuff that people just are not adequately discussing in marriage the way that they should be prior. More people need to be doing this. They're not even thinking about these scenarios of like what they really dream of, 5-year plans, 10-year plans, anything like that, dude. Trad fishing, I'm 100% using it the next time I see it, man. It's not often that I completely coin a term, and I might not have coined that. Someone else might have thought of it before me, but I'm definitely using it myself now. Peter, thank you for another generous super chat. It says, if it was up to me, I'd work 2 25.5 shifts. I have things to do, and hiking is a big part of my life. Dude, I'm a big believer in, I wish we could all have a 30-hour work week. I feel like that's that sweet spot. You know what I mean? Like about 30 hours is like something about just one shift less, like a 4-day work week would be so ideal. I honestly feel like a lot of us would happily still work a full 40-hour work week if we could do it in 4 days. But like a lot of places, they don't even let you. You have to be there 5 days a week. You have to work these broken up, awkward chunks. And God forbid you're in like the food industry or the retail industry where your hours are so wonky and inconsistent. You have no idea where you'll be on any given day or for how long. Some of you guys are on call. It's stressful, dude. It's so stressful. 10-hour shifts are kind of brutal. I guess the last time I did fully 10-hour shifts was in my 20s, so I guess I can't. The times are different now. I used to do a lot of things differently in my 20s. I worked many more hours. Yeah, the 30-hour work week seems like it could be possible, but not when you're like, not for these people who are like not even making $15 an hour, unfortunately. No other benefits. That's when it gets rough. All right. Let me think of one more thing to end it on. Let's end on a psycho note, on some wild text messages. Let me pull these up. Make sure we can see them all. All right. we'll end the stream on covering a situation where a psycho loses it immediately, and we get to check this out in real time through their text messages. End on something a little silly for this thought-provoking stream. Found this one on r/2 hot takes, which is a podcast that I like, and they kind of like submit different concepts for things. So this person says, advice needed. I went to a grocery shopping today, and as I was about to put my stuff in my car, a guy walked up and was like, let me help you, you're pretty, etc. Normal conversation, then at the end he asked for my number. After I got home, he tried to call, but I was busy, so he texted, hey, and this is where we are. He's blocked now. Okay, so how could this possibly go so awry? Let's find out. So it looks like they said something first, but they crossed it out. He says, hey, hello. He says, I want to actually talk, not text. Call me back when you got a sec. Seems like some time passes. He goes, you've been off the phone for a while now, but don't bother calling me back or anything, since I'm not important and not attractive enough, since I'm not full black, and that's what insecure white Hispanic prefer to be seen in public dating instead of me, who obviously looks completely different than all full black guys, which is a good thing and not a bad thing, you low IQ level tards that are scared to not fit in. Well, okay, so it looks like we've chosen to absolutely self-sabotage. And look, I'm already looking at this still through an empathetic lens, because being mixed race does come with a lot of, you know, identity issues. From what I've heard, I wouldn't know because I am really just a white lady. But from all of my like biracial mixed race friends, all of them seem to have given me some kind of sense of like, I don't really know where I fit in, because I don't feel like I don't fully fit in with this group, and I feel like I don't fully fit in with this group, and I know that that's common. But it's also kind of funny that like, you'll hear from some black folks who are like, everybody just wants to date like Obama black lighter skinned people. But then you hear from this guy and he's like, sorry for not being black enough. And it's like, look, I don't blame you guys, because it often can feel in this country like there's no right way to be any kind of black. But there's also no right kind of way to self-sabotage within your first interactions with a woman. I just typically don't recommend it. Look, it's normal to have insecurities. It's normal to wonder like, man, I hope she finds me attractive enough, or I hope she finds me engaging enough. But I cannot stress enough, y'all gotta fake it till you make it, okay? You can't just trauma dump off the jump. Like, if you're gonna open up to your insecurities, you gotta like build trust and build rapport. I'm not saying never talk to women about your feelings, but don't offload all of your deepest insecurities within your first day of meeting someone. No, you're absolutely going to scare them away. What are you doing, sir? She says, I just met you today. You don't know me or my life or my preferences. Seems like you're just projecting your own insecurities. I've been busy. That was wild. Go ahead and delete my number. I'm good. Which, reasonable at this point already, but how could it possibly go on? He says, girl, that is not legit. Don't contact me anymore. Delete my number. Because I obviously didn't want to date a mixed guy in the first place, because his mixed ethnic nose is unattractive to me. He didn't get a fake rhinoplasty nose surgery like us white people noses, so I'm not interested in him, and he's not my type immediately upon seeing him. Boy, you would not have even gotten the number if it was that serious. Why are you electroding and using self-destruct right now? Why does he keep going? Oh, so that's his impression of a girl that is not legit. Now this is an impression of a girl that is legit. Girl that is legit. That was my bad for not getting back to you sooner, which is no doubt clear disrespecting you after you gave me tons of respect and props in the beginning. I do think you are handsome, and I really appreciate the courage of you coming up to me, going way out of your way trying to make my day. I would love to hang out with you sometime, getting to know you, and I do value you as an equal human, and I don't prefer dating full race guys instead of you. A not legit person would say what you said, which is agreeing with me. Like, what was his whole Yeah, a not legit girl would respond well to being called a low-level IQ tard, okay? A real legit girl would respond well to that and would go over the top to validate the shit out of my insecurities and remind me that I am a special, magical, handsome prince, just like my mommy did. And how dare you? But like, what did you expect? I have to agree with Peter Edwards in the super chat saying, Lauren, he dumb. Yeah, he traumatized. He traumatized to all hell. What does a girl that's legit say? Oh my god, that's crazy. Sleep well, likely an inappropriate slur, knowing that you're a type of stuck-up, arrogant, full of yourself white girl against dating my mixed friend. Puke. Oh my god, so he sends this from a different number pretending to be the guy's friend. Puke cowards that team up with the full blacks that hate on light-skinned. Bro took like 2 hours of not responding to be an entire race war. That escalated to like Charles Manson levels. Dog, that is so unhinged. Shiny says, this is literally the worst opening possible. This is what I call pedal panic in relationship conversations. I think it happens, unfortunately, to a lot of like nice girl / incel types, which have a big Venn diagram crossover in their personality, where pedal panic is the phenomenon where a person tries to hit the brake pedal to stop a collision, but accidentally hits the gas pedal, but then they're so freaked out by the entire event that they can't let go of the gas pedal because their brain is committed to the brake pedal, and then they end up causing so much more damage. And I think that happens with like relationship rejection situations, is a guy or a girl will go into an interaction thinking like things are going to go my way, I'm going to be approved of, we're going to flirt, they're going to like me, but then like they do something wrong. They piss the other person off, they lose the other person's interest, they get rejected for one reason or another, and then instead of like putting their foot on the other pedal, they just like blitzkrieg on through with like, well then you know what, you're just ugly anyway, and whatever they have to say to, in their mind, turn the interaction around to where it seems like the rejection was their idea in the first place, that's what they're gonna try and do, and they just can't stop until they're either blocked or like get a restraining order. But I swear I see that so often in rejection, is the pedal panic response that just makes things go from like 0 to 100, dude. So terrible. What are some of the responses in the chat? Glad he showed his true colors immediately. This is unhinged. It's scary how fast it escalated. The thing is, everybody's saying I would be worried for my safety. Yeah. Yeah, because this is the exact types of behavior you see in guys like what was his name? That one Gareth dude who murdered that one celebrity doctor. Drew, what's his name? Drew Carey's wife. She got killed by an ex-boyfriend who was just doing the same old thing, sending her crazy, harassing messages day after day. And it's like, you guys really can't be doing that because we have no choice but to assume the worst. I actually have to relate to this. If my husband dies, I'll die alone in a house full of cats who will eat my corpse. Yeah. Unfortunately, I must agree. I think I said this earlier in the stream, but yeah, it's the cat, wine, and spinster life for me if anything happens to TJ. I'm too Chad widowed to date again. Okay, let's watch one more. One more. Sorry, let me try that, reading that again. It says, sometimes you have to make a choice as a BF. Y'all, they were not happy with him in the comments. Do you guys want to see how, do you guys think that do you think this went well for him? Went well in the likes ratio, went well in the monetized ratio. Some of these comments, though, as a skit, this is funny, but IRL, this would break my heart. That's how you get promoted from BF to ex-BF. Like, it's just so funny to me that, like, the women think they're doing something in the comments when, like, we all know that this is obviously a joke. The right decisions are always the hardest to make, but they must be made in order to live the life you deserve. Make sure the door is locked, though. This guy comes in, he has to be Mr. Pick-Me. No, I dropped everything I'm doing for my wife. Here's a cookie, Mr. Happy. You win. May this kind of love never find me. Okay, it won't because it's satire, though. My face went from this to this. There's no way there are people taking this seriously. Narrator voice. There was indeed a way. I love that someone, like, he had to clarify, this is a skit, she usually plays video games with me. Right, like, it's not like it's not like it wasn't staged, guys. She was so happy. I have no clue what happened. It was so unexpected. They're quoting, like, the typical guy response to getting dumped. They're gonna be really disappointed that, he remains undumped, actually. That's funny, actually. I'm sorry, little one. That's hilarious. This is also really solid advice. Just buy her Animal Crossing. Works for me. Truly, how to convert a non-playing video game playing girl into a video game playing one. That's definitely the easiest strat. I agree. All right, well, it's time for me to start wrapping up the stream. We have yapped and prattled on long enough, but listen, here is what we have to look forward to, because we will be live again Thursday and Friday. Can't do it tomorrow because I have to get my root canal redone. Yeah, it hasn't been enough on me, apparently. It hasn't been enough that I had to go through a brutal surgery and then I had 3 major appliances go down on us. That was not enough. The powers that be also were like, how about you have to redo an entire root canal? How about that? We love that for you. I just keep telling myself that quote of God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers. And I just keep, like, taking that as a compliment, you know? And then, but then I'm also getting some new flooring, okay? Just tore out all the last carpet in our house. Getting down some new flooring. So excited about a big renovation project. So that should be done by Wednesday. And then we're ready to start streaming again. So big things. Aaron said, Kinky, the appliances went down on you. They sure are spraying and sputtering. Okay, just not in the way that I would hope. All right. But Thursday, we are going to be covering our live stream theme of the stream is the dark underbelly of are we dating the same guy groups. So this is going to be a deep analysis of these types of groups. I'm sure you've heard of them by now, but they are essentially what you would think, which is girls trying to anonymously or publicly get together to figure out if they are indeed dating the same dude. Sounds noble on its head, but are they actually being moderated well enough to prevent reputational harm and other forms of harm? I don't know, things to explore. So if you are part of any Are We Dating the Same Guy groups and you find any extra juicy or relevant posts that you want me to add to the stream, definitely send them to me at lauren@dadvocate.net. I'm compiling my own research for this, but anything extra that you want to throw onto that you've seen from your own local groups, please send them my way. I would love that. Then on Friday, I will introduce you to a TikToker who is publicly planning her whole slow and sneaky divorce from her husband, who he trusts does not have social media. So that will be an interesting one, certainly. That one guy, oh wait, sorry, Shala's super chat was first. Let me read that one. Shala, thank you so much for the super chat. Says the strongest super chats for the strongest warrior. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's me. I'm tough with my root canal part 2 electric boogaloo. And then that one guy, thank you for yours, says, here's a little something for your tooth, Hurdy. Yeah, dude, it's such a pain in the ass. Like, I knew that it wasn't done correctly when I first got it done, but it more felt just weird than painful. And I was like, I can live with this. It's fine. And I kept bringing it up to my dentist. I was like, I think something's off. Something's off in there. Can you guys see anything? They're like, you're probably going to have to go back and get it redone. I'm like, sure. Yeah, I'll do that eventually. And then lately, it like just suddenly got really bad all at once. And it was just like exaggerated pain, so bad, like hurts to walk. So I was like, ah, shit. All right, we got to get this taken care of. So another tooth approach it shall be. But yes, we have, and yeah, I hope you can get your teeth fixed to that one guy. Guys, do not sleep on your dental. Seriously, it costs way less in the long run if you just go to your 6-month checkups. I swear, it will cost you so much less. They're really not bad. Like, once I started really staying on top of my teeth, making sure I go to all my cleanings, my 6-month checkups, like being on top of it. Dude, this one time I went in at 8 o'clock and they were like, oh, you have the beginnings of a cavity, but because it's just started, we can do the filling right now. And we don't have to put you, like, give you any, like, numbing, nothing. We can just really quickly take care of it. So I was out of there 16 minutes later and only paid $19 for the whole thing. Like, to be fair, I had pretty good insurance, all right, and still do, but stay on your teeth. They're too close to the brain. It's so easy to put things off for years, and then they got to pull a whole tooth out. Now you're toothless, okay? Now you got to start considering dentures. And yes, Dylan, I completely agree. Floss. Flossing is the #1 way to prevent halitosis. Okay? And people who have stinky breath, they have no idea that they have stinky breath. Okay? So you have no idea at any given time whether you fall into that camp or you don't. So the best way to avoid being in that camp, go to the dentist every 6 months. Brush your teeth every day. Floss your teeth. If not every day, as close to every day as you possibly can. And if you have a retainer, wear your retainer at night. I swear to God, I will dad power slap the shit out of you like he did to that bully if you do not wear that retainer. Do you know how many people I know spent thousands, whose parents spent thousands for them to have braces, just for them to not wear a basic retainer to bed, and then their teeth go flying to different zip codes immediately within just a few short months? Listen to me, look at me. When I went to the dentist before my Invisalign, okay, it was like a few months in when my dentist was like, I can finally tell you, you used to have summer teeth because some are here and some are there. We can't go back to that. We can't go back to that life. Okay, we can't go back to summer teeth. We must wear our retainers, people. All right, it's not uncommon for me to end my streams with some kind of unhinged rant, but this time It's an unhinged dental rant, okay? Y'all better be flossing. Y'all better be going in every 6 months. Scrub your tongues, too. Brush your tongues. It's not just enough to brush your teeth. You got to brush your tongues first, okay? And it doesn't even have to be Invisalign. There's other, like, cheaper options, right? But I will say the one benefit of Invisalign that I know off the dome is you have unlimited redos for 5 years. Don't be afraid to use those. I've already had my Invisalign redone like 5 times. I was supposed to be done after 9 months. It ended up taking me well over 18 because I kept being like, no, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. Now I love my teeth. I'm glad that I was being picky. I might still go back and redo them again because I'm allowed to. It might be a pain in the ass, but seriously, use your warranties as much as you possibly can. They're your teeth, man. It's worth it. Explain the tongue. Like, why do you brush it? It's just another way of avoiding bad breath and like just keeping your mouth a lot cleaner. Personally, I have to brush my tongue whenever I have coffee before recording. Otherwise, I just have like very visible coffee tongue, you know? Yeah, the tongue also traps bacteria. That too. Yeah, we gotta go. For me to go to the dentist, I don't get to eat for a week. Dude, that's what pisses me off. It pisses me off that dental and vision care is not just included in like basic medical. Like I said, your teeth are so close to your brain. What do you mean that's not basic medical care? Oh man, teeth are overrated. I disagree. Teeth are important, man. Because we all notice bad teeth. That's the thing. Is that like one thing that people consistently rate when it comes to like instant turnoffs in a person is bad smell, bad teeth, and bad hygiene in general. You have to take care of y'all's teeth. Lauren going medieval on us. Thank you, Peter. Man. Y'all are gonna be going medieval if you don't brush your teeth. Better take care of them. There are like cheaper plans too. I've heard of a lot more places are starting to do like income-based dental care to the point that like some of y'all are getting cleanings for like $7. You gotta look into this stuff. There's definitely options. Dental insurance only covers so much. Yeah. I'm currently in a position where I had to temporarily switch to marketplace insurance, and my main dentist that I've been going to for years since I moved to the side of the state, it's only like partial coverage there, but I don't want to switch dentists. But I'll probably be going back soon to employer insurance while TJ's switching between a few different things. I hope. For all y'all on marketplace insurance, I'm praying for you. It's rough out here. Yeah. Malachi, that's true. You don't always need dentures if you pull a tooth. And I can definitely speak to this for sure. Like most people will never notice if it's all the way in the back of your mouth. My high school boyfriend, I remember one time we were hanging out with a group of people and he was like, he was known to like make up stories and like lie about little things and troll people. So when he said something like, oh yeah, I'm missing a tooth, I was like, shut up. No, you're not. He's like, Lauren, yes, I am. I'm like, no, you're not. I've been dating you for over 2 years. If you were missing a tooth, I'm pretty sure I would know about it. Tell me why this dude opens his mouth and shows me a fully missing tooth. I was like, oh. I guess I would not know that you were missing a tooth after 2 full years of dating. Whoops. To this day, yeah, TJ had to have a tooth in the back pulled about a year or so ago. I've never noticed. I don't think I've ever seen it to this day, actually. I still can't tell that he's missing a tooth. It's true. No one will ever know. You'll be fine. Wait, all of your teeth were pulled? Okay, then people notice. What do you mean? What do you wear? Is there like a non-denture type thing? People know that you don't have teeth if you've had all of your teeth pulled. Look up dental care in Brazil. People are going to Brazil for everything. People are going out there for like the best facelifts and stuff now. I don't know how, but like it's been engrossed in my algorithm. All these like Brazilian surgeries. Okay. Anyway, final thoughts. Speak now or forever hold your peace, cheers, and super chats. Okay. Anything else before we reconvene once again on Thursday? I'm also planning a YouTube members and Patreon only live coming up pretty soon, probably sometime next week. So if you haven't already, remember my Patreon for all tiers over white belt is 25% off with code Irish. Definitely come join. The Patreon's a lot of fun. You get access to our Discord, exclusive content, behind the scenes stuff. It's a lot of fun, and you get your name on the shout out board, which it previously has been on a board that's back there, but since that's been hard to see, I'm actually going to turn it into a marquee that plays during the outro of the YouTube videos. So it'll be a little bit easier to read. You'll be able to find your name a little bit quicker. So, you know, I love Peter donates just to say, nope, no final thoughts. Final thoughts, hold my beer and watch this. Yeah, I'm look forward to around between 4 and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I'll be dropping a new short for you guys. But aside from that, I will see